Call to order the regular meeting of the school board for Monday, May 11th, 2026. We'll call to order the regular meeting of the school board. Thank you. We'll call to order. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Invite you to stand as you're able. Thank you. 1A, the reading of our school board meeting norms. Mr. Manley.
Thank you. The Grand Forks Public School District Number 1 school board norms are: be prepared, be on time, value and respect each other, exercise thoughtful deliberation and conversation, be professional at the board table and when visiting with the general public, speak up when the norms are not being followed, and advocate on behalf of students and keep the community in mind.
Thank you. Item 2 is the approval of tonight's agenda. I would seek a motion to approve the agenda as outlined in your board packet.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Larson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Palmasino. Any additions, changes, corrections? We'll take a roll call vote.
Manley?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. Item 3, celebrating success. We have a whole team of people here from Wilda Elementary School, so we'll invite you to the podium and you can introduce yourselves or each other. We're glad to have you.
Glad to be here. I'm going to turn this on. You know, as soon as you get up here, your mind goes blank and you forget everything you want to say. So forgive me for what I'm going to forget to say in the long run. So good evening, and thank you so much for the opportunity for us to get to share our story tonight. It matters a lot to us. I'm not going to get emotional either. So we appreciate your continued support of our students, our staff, and our school community. And tonight, it's really a privilege to highlight the work, growth, and successes happening at Wilder. And we're excited to really give you a glimpse of some of the impact our team and students have right now working together. We have about 3 hours planned for you tonight. So if you have a snack, right, Mr. Bach, you said 3 hours? Okay, that's what I thought. So I want to thank this great team for being here, first of all, and your time and expertise are truly what matters the most and greatly appreciated. We have Kelsey McKnight, kindergarten, Liz Watson, our math interventionist, Brittany Biermeyer, AVID coordinator, reading specialist, all things in our school, and Christine Higginbotham, second grade teacher, and Miss Heidi Lamcastle, our school counselor. So new to us this year, and we're just loving having you with us. So, okay. So really our vision is really centered around empowering every student to see their potential and know they belong here. That's just something we say, and we want students to feel it and know it. We want Wilder to be a place where students feel safe taking risks, building confidence, and growing both socially and academically. Our staff focuses heavily on building relational capacity for our students, and that is truly what shines through daily. If you walked in the building, every teacher knows every student's name. Every student knows every teacher, and it's a pretty good feeling. And this is a picture of our dedicated staff at Wilder who truly do go above and beyond every day, I would say, right? I feel fortunate, really, to work alongside colleagues who are solution-driven and always willing to reflect on and adjust instructional practices just to help students grow. Mrs. Higginbotham and Mrs. McKnight are just two great examples of that commitment, and later on in the presentation today, they're going to share some of their story with you. So demographics, I'll focus on a little bit. 167 for our enrollment. We have 11 classrooms, 2 sections of each, except one for fifth. That always changes every year. Next year we'll have 2 fifth, 1 fourth. So it's always changing. 26 certified staff, 18 classified staff. Our demographics, this just shows us kind of our student population this year. Our low income rate has increased to 68.2%. Our IEP rate is 26%, and our McKinney-Vento is 3%. So when we look at that IEP rate, that's pretty high for a small school. So I really had to dig in and look at our students. And when we found our students from K on, 22 of those 43 IEPs were students who moved into our area. So it's very transient population, and typically one will move in on an IEP, is what we have discovered happening, quite common. So these are our board aligned goals that we've kind of aligned with what you would like as well. And as you can see, our trajectory of where we hope to be by 2028. So we've set that. We have many practices that we've put into place to improve our ELA achievement. So part of that includes, and you'll hear more about these in depth as we go, but our fluency goal, it's school-wide, K-5. At the end of last year at our annual review title meeting, teachers kind of identified fluency as an area to work on. And so that became also our our fluency, our AVID goal, I should say. This year you'll hear a lot about our Tier 1 differentiation for second grade, distributed practice for fluency, and Tier 1 for really K1, targeted skill instruction, and Tier 1 plans developed. One goal across many grade levels was to increase opportunities for all to respond, and that really just helps with engagement and really can decrease behaviors along the way too. And then with wit and wisdom and the adoption, we really wanted to create collaboration meetings monthly just to check in where we're at and where do we need support, and that's been helpful in just keeping with fidelity. And another celebration is that Ms. Higginbotham's going to finish Module 4. Or did you this week? You did this week, yes. So that's huge. That's huge. So we're proud of you. After every assessment window, we have data digs, K-5. We data review as part of our PLC process. Our interventions are more aligned with what we're doing with Tier 1 now. We increased foundational skill time because we noticed, and Kelsey will talk about this, our kindergartners often come in very low and very limited letter sound knowledge. We need all the foundational time we can get because their exposure really happens at school. So progress monitoring using CBMs and practice to mastery was put into place for K1. So lots of great things. So here's our data from our NDSA and NDA outcomes. So we track over time just to look for trends. And we recognize that our proficiency rate is not where we want it to be. We own it. And we do our part to keep strengthening practices and do what is within our control in our school to help with that achievement. So one thing we're really proud of this year is members of the CIT department did come over to observe literacy. And the feedback we got from them really affirmed that we're on the right track and really highlighted the strong work happening at Wilder each day. So that was good, positive feedback, and we appreciated just knowing and being reaffirmed. So And this chart just shows our student populations and how each are performing. And as a staff, we monitor all populations and look for trends and patterns to uncover how we could better serve our students. And we are noticing some populations are trending upwards from where they even were 5 years ago. And we recognize that there's still some that have a little gap that we want to keep honing in on and planning those next steps to support them. So I will say, the assessment window closed on Friday. This had to be to Miss Cindy by Thursday at noon. And so our proficiency rate did change from 31.8 to 32.7, and every percent matters at Wilder. So, but this had to go to print. So I will say I'm very proud. Every percent does matter. So alongside with our board-aligned goals, we also have our Title I goals that we use STAR for as our assessment tool, and that's where we can really track more often and progress monitor more often to see if we are on the right track and what we can do to adjust practices if we need to. So as you can see, our K1 students surpassed their goal this year already, so that was a huge celebration in itself, and we're very proud of the work that's gone on there and looking forward to that. So we did move some slides around, so Mrs. McKnight and Mrs. Higginbotham could just take some time to highlight some of the instructional practices that they put into place and then share their outcomes, and then we'll get back on track with some literacy pieces. So for now, I get to introduce Mrs. McKnight to share.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to start with how our year started. This was one of the lowest classes I have started the year with. I started with a new partner coming into the district. I left for maternity leave in the fall. And when I came back, heading into the new year, we looked at our fall data and our winter data, and we were like, we got to do something. So one of the things we tried was distributed practice. We've heard a lot about it. Miss Beldy has done a lot of research about it. It was a lot of phonemic awareness and fluency practice. We did this with like 1-minute quick looks in our classrooms in between transitions and subjects. We did quick little read-a-rows with letter sounds. We trained paras and specialists and had bins in the hallway for push-in or pull-out and quick like fluency work. We did testing and learned each letter and letter sound that the kids knew or didn't know, and then just really focused on those. We also restructured our schedule and really pulled out the standards for wit and wisdom that we needed to hit in order to create foundational skill time, and then we were able to work on that daily, and that is really when we saw a lot of growth. We worked on letters, letter sounds, CVC words, encoding, decoding, and then during TSI time, we really used our really great reading practice to mastery curriculum, and then we dipped into geodes and some decodables. And these were our outcomes. So in the beginning of the year, we were actually the lowest in the district, and we're using STAR letter CBMs on the left. And then in the winter, they went up a little bit, but only to 21%. And they are sitting at 86% as of last week, because the slides had to be turned in. But now we're actually at 96%. So we are now the highest kindergarten class in the district. Oh, okay, well.
Doesn't matter because we don't have reds.
You know, we were the highest in the district, but we had our moment. But we have no reds. We have, I think, one kid in the blue, and the rest is green. And so just like from where we started and the things we tried, and with a new partner and me being gone, that is a really big win. I'm very proud of these kids. On the right is our STAR Early Lit. And in kindergarten, we don't have a separate literacy and math. It's actually combined, and it's just called Early Lit. So we went down in the winter and then shot up to 77. But again, that is literacy and math combined. But I think our distributed practice and our foundational skills really made a difference. I can't believe the growth. So Ms. Higginbotham's going to talk about second grade now.
Yes. Thank you. Hello. So second grade also started the year off a little bit lower than what we would like to see. So 62% were not at grade level at the beginning of the year, and we were looking at that number, in some ways kind of excited because there's a lot of room for growth there, but we also realized we had to get creative. And so that's where our wonderful reading specialist came in and helped us develop a plan, and she'll talk about that in a little bit. But me and the other second grade teacher, because there's two of us, we were wondering what can we do? What is whole group going to look like for us? Because in past years when our numbers weren't quite that big, that at low or at risk or below was not 62%. It was sometimes a struggle in class teaching whole group phonics skills when some of the class was just not there yet. And this is a wonderful group of kiddos. There's so many tests that don't show all of their ability. They have so much grit. They work so hard all the time, and they deserved to get some instruction that was going to meet their needs right where they were. And so Brittany came up with a wonderful idea, and I'll let her share a little bit more about that.
Yes, so going back to that 62%, we knew, and kind of at the end of last year, we knew these kids were going to have some needs. And we know when our percentage is that high, that this is really something that needs to be tackled at the Tier 1 level. We can't intervene our way out of, 62% of a grade levels having needs. So we looked at Tier 1, and over the summer, Kristen Spradlin, our instructional coach, and I attended the North Dakota Literacy Summit in Fargo, and one of the presenters there, Jamie Peevler, I'm now her fangirl, did a really great presentation on cognitive load theory, and she spoke so much to the things that we were seeing with our explicit phonics instruction. We know that phonics follows a scope and sequence, and it's constrained skills, right? You need to master skills in order to build upon those skills, and if you have prerequisite skills that you have not mastered, your cognitive load becomes overwhelmed and new learning doesn't occur, right? Because there isn't something there to be sticky, to stick that new learning onto and build upon. So we decided to look at differentiating at the Tier 1 level. Another resource that I pulled into this was from the MTSS reading intervention, Stephanie Stoller. Yes. Yeah. And Sarah Brown's book, and they talk a lot about differentiating at the Tier 1 level when a need is this great. So we decided to take our second grade students at the beginning of the year and do a diagnostic assessments and kind of pinpoint where all of their needs kind of lie in as far as explicit phonics instruction, and then we broke them up into 5 groups, and we had our special ed teachers in the mix. So we had our 2 classroom teachers, myself, and our 2 special ed teachers, and we created groups for Tier 1 instruction, and we had every student kind of start at their entry point in the curriculum. So some of our kiddos were starting halfway through the first grade curriculum, but we knew we needed to meet them where they were at, and then we devised our schedule to have 2 times with them so that those kids who did start further back were getting a double dose to catch them back up, but meet them where they needed to start, so that they could find more success. And we have felt that it has been really successful for our learners this year. Our data shows it. Like, we have been progress monitoring these kiddos weekly, especially the ones that, we're watching, and they are growing. And we've also noticed
Less
behaviors, just the kids, everybody's doing work that they're capable of. Everybody can participate. The confidence is there. It's been awesome, really. So our celebration is that we have definitely shrunk that red. From fall, we had 55% that were identified on their passage of oral reading being at the intervention level, and in the spring, we were down to 31%. In the fall, 38% of those kiddos were below the 10th percentile, and we're down to 24%. So that has felt really good, too. And then I think there's one other slide about this.
And there you can see the data.
Yes. And another thing that we did in the fall, Leslie, myself, and Kristen attended the Coach ELA sessions this year. which was a combination of Zoom, PD, and in-person sessions in Fargo that was really centered around literacy data and database decision-making. And we were tasked with setting a goal specific for that Coach ELA learning time. And we had set our goal for May that our first and second grade students would increase their oral reading proficiency by 15% as measured by the Passage of Oral Reading CBM. So we wanted our first grade population to go from 38% to 53% proficient. In April, when we had that last district window, we were at 48%. So we didn't quite meet that goal, but since then, we, yes, are at 55%. So we did meet and slightly surpass that goal. So that
We're
has.
not done yet.
And we're not
still
done
doing our
yet. We're
groups.
going up to the end, right? And then another thing it notes down there is that 34% of our students met their fluency goals, which we'll talk more about. I know Leslie touched on how students set individual fluency goals, and we'll be touching on that here too. So I will move on to that next. So another thing to note about Wilder is that we are one of the 3 AVID elementary schools in the district. And with our AVID work, we set a AVID site goal every fall. And this year we chose to center that goal around student goal setting and tracking student progress in the area of fluency. Why did we choose this? Well, we know that the ultimate goal of reading is to be able to extract meaning, right? To read something and remember or gain new knowledge from it. But in order to do that, you have to be a fluent reader. Reading has to be a natural process. And so this brain image up here is one that we have really loved. And when we shared these goals with families, we shared this image, and we talked about setting these goals in the fall. We shared this image with our staff. Why does fluency matter? Why are we setting goals like this? So you can see on the left, the less fluent brain, so much of their brain capacity is just taken up trying to crack the code of reading, right? That is what they're tasked with. Where on the right, the more fluent reader has more cognitive desk space for processing, remembering, understanding when they're reading. So that is why we decided to set fluency goals for all of our learners. So our kindergarten kiddos, there's goals were set around letter sounds. So we took our fall benchmark scores, and in our Star Renaissance testing platform, we set goals. You can go in and set individual goals for each student within the platform. So we took their fall score and we set goals for mid-April. And so it generated where we would like to see them at that point, given their starting point. And for our students who were more at risk, those red kiddos or blue kiddos, we set ambitious goals in STAR because we knew they had more of a gap to close, and so their goal was a little bit higher towards the end of the year. And then our 1st through 5th graders had their Passage of Oral Reading fluency goals. And we did share these with the kids, and I think that was the big piece, is that this was something that we wanted to involve the students in, and we wanted to help them be part of that conversation and the importance behind why this matters. And as you'll see up there, that graph, after each of our checkpoints, we would have them fill in their graph so they could see their growth towards their goal and how they were doing. And we shared that with families too at fall and spring conferences. And then we also are planners. There's something that we have implemented since we became an AVID school. It's just a nice way for us to continue that ongoing communication between students and families at home, and a great way for our students to reflect on their learning. So there's a 1st grade example of one of their planners up on the screen there. And then I will go through our overall fluency outcomes. So 74% of our kindergarten students met their fluency goals, and 43% of Wilder students 1st through 5th grade met their fluency goals this year. And we had an overall school proficiency increase of 25%. So that's pulling the K letter sounds and then all the grade levels passage of oral reading scores from fall, winter, and spring. 1st grade, we had also set that Coach ELA goal for 1st grade, and they did meet their goal of a 15% increase, and 41% of our students in first grade also met their fluency goals. And then we also have their STAR early literacy results up there too. In third grade, our oral reading proficiency increased by 47% from fall to spring, and 42% of our students met their fluency goals. And then we have their STAR reading assessment. And our fourth graders, they did not increase their proficiency. This is something we noticed in pockets across the district in fourth and fifth grade. And I think that's just become a bigger conversation of why is that, right? Like, what's going on there? Are we just not reading out loud enough in those upper grades? And I think that's another area for us now to, moving forward, start to problem solve a little more intentionally. But when we saw that in April, when our CBM window closed, we knew we needed to do something, right? The year wasn't done, so we decided to implement fluency partners. So myself and Kristen Spradlin, our instructional coach, went into the fourth grade classrooms. Kristen put together fluency folders for all the students, and we kind of taught them this routine of taking 5 minutes a day. You sit with your partner, and they did these read out loud routines together to build their oral reading fluency. We just kind of got that implemented, so it's only been going for a couple of weeks, so I can't credit that necessarily to their increase, but they did increase to 56% proficiency as of last week. And I think, too, a big part of that was just having those conversations around why this matters and just kind of making them a little more aware. They might have been a little tested out at the time, too, with some of the other testing going on. But that was really nice to see, that they did make some nice gains by the end. And then fifth grade, our oral reading proficiency increased by 8%, and 40% of our fifth grade students met their fluency goal. And then again, their STAR CAT assessments results. So our overall ELA CBM outcomes by grade level. And again, in kindergarten, that's showing letter sounds. And then the first through fifth is that passage of oral reading, which is that 1 minute timed read that looks at both their rate and their accuracy. And now I will hand it off to Liz Watson, our math interventionist.
Hi, thank you for having us this evening. So with math, our board-aligned goal was that Wilder will increase mathematic proficiency levels from 23% proficient or advanced in 2022-23 to 48% by September of 2028, as measured by the NDA Plus. Sorry. Okay, so kind of similar to what Leslie had spoken about earlier, our math inputs. So I kind of approach math as an interventionist in a lot of different ways at our school. Really depends on what we need. So I will do push-in instruction. I will co-teach and work with teachers at different grade levels, especially like third grade. We're departmentalized at that grade level, and I do a lot of work with that teacher because she just teaches math. I support teachers in other ways. I will help them with planning some instruction, especially like that skill group. What you see below is whole group instruction or skill group. I do help with Tier 1, but I especially help with coming up with some different ideas to support our skill groups. Just like ELA, we have developed some different distributive baskets for students to work on skills. So like kindergarten, they're working on number identification, first grade quantity comparisons, second grade addition to 20. We have a lot of team meetings where I work with the teachers at their team level and help with instructional strategies. So, for example, I did a lot of work with 3rd and 4th grade this year on problem solving. Just being able to read a problem and logically, think through, what is this problem actually asking me to solve? And we did a lot of that work in the 3rd and 4th grade. And then K1 and 2, I did a lot of skill work. So we're really trying to make sure kids have those foundational skills. Can they count? Can they add and subtract? Do they have flexibility with their thinking with numbers? These are all important skills to have as they move into those 3rd and 4th grade levels, so they can solve those problems and think flexibly. And just like ELA, I progress monitor students that need those interventions. We use the CBMs, and I just make sure that the kids are making the growth that they need to, and if they're not, kind of think, what's going on. So we do data digs to, kind of look at the data to make sure the students are moving forward with the growth they need to, depending on what grade level they're in. And we are also moving towards following the district guardrails to make sure that we are using Tier 1 instruction in all our classrooms with fidelity. So these are our math outcomes for the NDA+. And again, just like ELA, we are working towards increasing those numbers the best we can. And as you can see with the blue numbers, we did have a new assessment that was given last year, so that was a little bit different for the students. And these are our math outcomes. At the top is, again, that Be Legendary data where we're looking at the NDSA plus baseline. We want to move our students from 28% to 42% in the next 5 years, and be done with that at the end of the fall of 2028. Is that correct? Yes. So, and then if you look at the blue numbers underneath that, that is our STAR CAT data, and we're looking at those assessments. So in the spring of last year, we were at 48% proficiency across Wilder. And this year, great celebration, we are now at 52.9%. And so you can see that on this screen. We are only 0.1% from meeting our goal. So that was a very big celebration, and very exciting to see that our students are moving forward with math from just last year to this year. A lot of work with, not just me, but just also working with all the teachers, the students. They definitely take the credit. And as you can just see on the far left, there is the results for this year. We have 39% in the fall, and that was kind of nice to see that it felt like they had some retention over the summer, and like when they took their STAR tests at the beginning of the year, they were already at 39%, and we have grown to that 53% proficiency as of the end of April this year. And then here are important details too, because these are our foundational skills in math. Are the kids moving forward with their understanding of numbers? Are they fluent in their facts and being able to take their 1-minute CBM and show that they're making progress? And so we started the year on the far left here of the graph at 33% proficiency, and we are now at 71% proficiency. If you look at kindergarten, first, second, third, and fourth grade. We don't have fifth grade because that is not normed for STAR. And finally, this is one of our other goals that we had, was that 50% of our students in grades K through 5 would reach their SGP of 65 by the end of this year. And as you can see on the one on the left, the ELA growth rate for K1, and that's that early lit STAR test that they take. We had 40% of the students reach that goal of 65. And then we had In grades 2 through 5, we have 28.9%, and in math, we had a rate of 33.3%. I am ready to have Heidi. This is Heidi Lamcastle, and she is our school counselor. It's this one here.
Good evening. So tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about our attendance, and then I'll move on and talk a little bit about social emotional learning and behavior interventions and school-wide efforts that we've made to prevent behavior issues. Every day matters and every student counts. Our fantastic social worker, Chantel Bergquist, is at home tonight celebrating her daughter's 5th birthday, and I'm going to do my very best to present her data on attendance. She heads up our attendance efforts at Wilder and does a truly fantastic job. So our goal for daily average attendance this year was 95%, and as of our latest reading, we achieved 92%, and we're proud of that number. I hadn't forwarded yet. So we have achieved 92%, and we are proud. Attendance really is the foundation of learning. So some of our attendance data, we have used title funds to upgrade to a full-time social worker who again does a fantastic job. Some of the work that she does and that our team does to increase our attendance at Wilder is work with our population when they need mental health supports, when they need medical supports or referrals. Chantel does a check-in, check-out system for families that are chronically absent and is making frequent contacts home to support those families to try to help them meet their needs so that they can attend. We also provide break spaces within the school for kids who might be struggling emotionally or are having mental health challenges so that they can continue to be at school and take breaks as needed rather than missing out on school. So those are some of our efforts. All right. So as of May 1st, our goal to decrease chronic absenteeism was to decrease it by 8%. Last year, 24-25, we had 26% chronic absentee, and we wanted to decrease that number. So 43% of our students, which is 71 of our students, attended 95% or more. 31% of our students attended between 90 and 95% of the time. 23% or 39 students attended between 80 and 90%. And then our seriously chronic absentee was 5 students, and that makes up 3% of our population. And we have worked really hard with these families to give them support so that they can attend more. Areas for improvement. At the start of school in August, our social worker is, this coming August, is implementing formal interventions with the families that have already been identified as struggling with the chronic absenteeism. So the plan is to reach out to them at our open house, and we want everybody to belong. Welcome them, let them know that we're here for them, that we support them, and figure out a plan to help them attend and get to school. All right, so this is more of my wheelhouse. I love the behavior stuff. Whole child, whole school. So behavior data and student supports. All behavior is really a form of communication. We're going to see challenging behaviors, and when we see that, we ask the question, what's happened, what's going on, and what supports can we provide to help you be successful at school and reach your highest potential. So we use multi-tiered support systems, and some of our SEL data is something I'm very proud of. So some strategies we've used for supporting those social emotional behavior learning are behavior academies. So within the last year, our district has adopted the Behavior Academies program, and I was able to do the training in December this year and really was able to jump in with both feet at that time. And together with the social worker, we completed 143 interventions. Some of those were behavior academies, others were other behavioral and social emotional learning supports. Tier 2 and Tier 3. I'll give a little more detail on that on the next slide. Our social emotional learning on the Tier 1 level included Second Step, which was taught by our teachers this year. And as of today, we have 194 Second Step lessons that were taught. As a school counselor, I teach the Sources of Strength lessons, and this year I taught 132 Sources of Strength lessons in K through 5. Another resource that we use is the Academy, or the Ron Clark Academy of Houses. And it's been a powerful tool for our students. And I know Kelsey is going to go into a little more detail about the Houses program that we use. We do weekly meetings, and we're teaching them to be leaders through character education. And that's been another piece of supports that we provide. Regular MTSS-B meetings, so we can review the students that might need supports, and then our behavior flow chart and matrix helps us keep consistency among students. All right, so this year I completed 118 behavioral interventions, and some of those were with students in small groups, and other ones were individual. These included things from grief support to kinder skills, groups of belonging to help kids who might be struggling with a sense of belonging, and then of course the behavior academies, Social Skills Academy, Upstander Academy, Civility Academy, the Hands Off Academy, and friendship restorations. And all of these groups and supports really are in place to help students to come back to be able to be their best and focus on their academics, to be successful in school. And we know that sometimes mental health challenges, friendship challenges, social challenges inhibits our students' learning. And so being able to have these supports in place to help them reach their highest potential has been something that's brought me personally a lot of joy. We also partnered with CVIC, and CVIC did 2 separate bounce back groups reaching 10 of our students this year. And the bounce back groups, it's an intensive program meeting for 12 weeks. They spend 3 months, and it's a trauma-informed care intervention that we're glad that some of our students were able to participate in. So our behavioral outcomes, the growth from last year. The student surveys results showed that there was growth across all areas. And we typically see kind of a dip, but our overall trend continues upward. And our behavior incident reports, the data collected on that. So in 24-25, there were 217 behavioral referrals, and this year there was 181. Now that's down by 36 referrals, or 21%, which is a significant drop. Houses, or the Houses Academy, has played a role in our character development, and I'd like to think it plays a role with that decrease in our behavioral referrals too. We are committed to positive reinforcement, positive behavior interventions and support at Wilder. And One of the big reinforcers that we use is house points. So when a student is caught doing the right thing, we want to reinforce that with specific praise immediately. And they earn a house point, for which it's a token for them to be able to spend at our school store. And providing that specific praise, that immediate specific praise, and rewarding them with points has gone a long way, and is really critically important in a school-wide positive behavior support plan. So we're pretty proud of that. And with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Kelsey to talk a little more about houses.
Okay, because we are a house and an Avid school, we really try and make a lot of opportunities for families to be engaged in our school. Some things we've done are family literacy night, and then families walk around and each classroom kind of has a reading activity to do. We've also done a math event like that. We have monthly PTO meetings. We've done turkey bingo. That's our big annual. It's a hit. You guys should come. We do our family picnic, which is coming up. It's tomorrow. You can come too. Yours truly might be grilling. And then we always do, before our red events, which are every last Friday of the month, we do like a 15-minute informational session, and usually Brittany or Leslie lead them. I've led a couple, but they're about different things around our school just to make sure families know what's going on, Avid, attendance, things like that. And more about our house system. So, our motto in the beginning, we really said it's you where you belong. We really took this on to give the kids a sense of belonging. We really wanted to try and connect all the students and the teachers. I know we're a small school, but house has really played a big part into that. Our 5th grade teacher would not know my kindergartners if we didn't have house. Even though we're one hallway school, we got a couple relos outside, so we might not see everybody. And I get to meet the big kids. They get to come back and see me after I've had them a few years ago. So it really builds relationships. It helps them become leaders. We've let the 4th and 5th graders interview. They did resumes this year, and they've become lieutenants and commanders, and they've really helped take on the leadership roles, the teaching process. And then this is our app we got this year. Our PTO sponsors that for us, and we did a fundraiser to help pay for it this year. But these are like our positive reinforcement. If you are doing the right thing, if you're being a role model, if you're being respectful, you get a house point. And then the kids can see on our smart boards who is in the lead, and they love that. So these are some highlights from house. Our house motto is 8 houses, 1 family. We do weekly meetings, and then the layout of that is with the month. We have 3 class lessons, so you go to your house classroom, and then on the last week, the 4th week, we do 1 house assembly. So the class lessons are themed every month, and we do that based on panorama data. So like what we need based on surveys, based on what we know about our kids. So some of the themes this year were self-regulation, goal setting, commitment, self-efficacy, etc. The first lesson, we always introduce the theme. The second week, the second lesson, we try to include an Avid strategy, and we usually pair up the littles with the bigs, and they have buddies. And then the 3rd week, in class, we do either some type of team bonding, connection, or self-reflection, how they can use that in their own life or within their school. Our house assemblies, they're really fun. We all go to the gym, and every house gets to nominate 1 kid every month who has shown either that character trait that we're working on, or they've been a really great house leader, and we write a very nice, caring letter, and we read it to them in front of the whole school, and some people cry. It's great. Then we do our house winner for the month, whoever gets the most house points on the app, and then we started doing Wilder Way winners. So if you get 3 postcards, which is like, well, you did the right thing, you get to open in the mail. If you get 3 of them, you get a little trophy. And this year we started implementing service projects, so every house had to sign up, and they got to choose. They work with their kids, and they do some sort of service project. We did the Earth Day cleanup, nursing home, gift cards, not gift cards, nursing home cards. Gift cards would be nice too. Pajama drive, and then right now we're currently working on donations for duffels for Foster Care Awareness Month. I'm on the mic. Questions?
Questions from board members? Ms. Flynn?
Hello,
Hi.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So last time you were here, I asked this question all the time, and one thing we talked about is that you're very grateful to have the support of interventionists at Wilder. And I think that has been kind of a common theme that we've seen from schools who have interventionists, is they have that dedicated support for those students, can implement some of those programs. So it's really exciting to see the data and really talk about your school success. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Part of my question surrounds kind of what's next. We've kind of followed Wilder's history for the past couple of years, and obviously can maintain some of these things, but is there anything else you need, or if there's a wish list, how can the board support you in moving forward? And then my second question is, if you could share a little bit more about potential patterns of why there's maybe some students that are absent. I'd like to hear maybe where some barriers are that district and school board can help out there.
Well, your first question, I think you hit the nail on the head. Our interventionists are just very important to us, and we use them differently in every grade. But when I started, we had a reading interventionist, but we did not have math. And that just makes it hard when we are the building that we are, and we have such a range of academic needs, behavioral needs, sometimes medical needs. And like Christine said earlier, in second grade this year, they really departmentalized and they took kids at their level, and we're able to do that with our interventionists now, where prior I would have to sit in a room with 20 kindergartners all at different levels. And some of them, it would be over their head, and then there'd be behaviors. And so I think our interventionists have helped with academics, but also behaviors, because they're able to learn at their level. So keeping our interventionists would be great. I wish we could stretch them even more and maybe clone them and have more. They are used a lot. Also, class sizes, I think, really plays a part. Kindergarten this year, I'm sitting at 13 kids right now. And my data skyrocketed, and I think that's a part of it. We did lose a couple. I started with a higher number, and they moved out, and we didn't really get a lot in this year. Usually we do. We are a very transient school. But that helps. I'm able to pull kids. We're able to do small groups. We can do push-in. We can do pull-ins. I know what's happening in everybody's life. I know who's having a hard day and a good day, and it's harder to do that when you have big class sizes and when you're also not always going to have support like a para in your room 100% of the time. So sometimes if you're handed a class with 25 kids, the ratio is 1 to 25. And then you do have an interventionist at hand for TSI time or for math, but that is not all day. So it helps when our class sizes are smaller. Your second question, attendance. Jump in if you want. I was just going to say winter weather.
Oh, right. So Amber, that's a great question, and thank you for asking a question. We really do have multiple barriers when it comes to our absenteeism. The demographic we serve is a lower SES demographic. We have high rates of the free and reduced lunch, and there's been some housing stability challenges as well as some mental health and physical health needs. So those have been some of the issues that have really led up to the chronic absenteeism. And those 5 students are on a plan, and then we'll continue to be on a plan next year. Does that answer it?
Chantel and I joke that we would like a Wilder van for a wish list.
Could you just grab the microphone? We can hear you in the room, but we also have folks
Yes.
checking in, so thank you.
Chantel and I joke often about that we would just really like a Wilder van, that we could just go around and pick up some of our students. And we had actually at a PTO meeting, we have families that after we reviewed some of our attendance data, they were like, I can pick people up. So they want to start a little ride share next year.
It is
So
hard
that
in the
might help.
winter when it's like -20. Our students and families who don't have transportation, they have to walk. Well, then it's not necessarily safe for them to walk when it's -20 out. So even looking at our data, sometimes our winter star data goes down, and that's really why the attendance is down. They're not at school, their scores go down, and then we always kind of see a jump again in the spring.
Yep, follow up, Ms. Flynn?
So if it's potentially a transportation barrier, is it maybe the students don't have the capacity to get there when the bus arrives in their neighborhood? Are
We
all
don't
the
have a
families
bus.
on the, Okay,
We don't have busing.
okay. And so is that something that we could potentially help with in terms of getting routes?
Yeah,
set
I
up?
just didn't know how that would work.
Mm-hmm.
If the range had to be so many of our families do live in a walkable range, but probably not when it's
Mhm.
20 below,
Yeah.
30 below. They
So there's
probably
no
don't want-
busing before or after school for any of the students?
Unless you live at the airport,
Yeah.
then we have,
Okay.
those kids are bused.
Yeah, okay. My last question is, I know the fifth graders visit middle schools every year. How did the fifth graders come back this year as opposed to previous years after their visit?
They were very excited about the new school. I will say that. Yeah, they were very excited, very nervous on how they're going to navigate different hallways since they're used to one. So next year we'll have 1.5 kind of with the new addition. So I kind of feel like we're moving up.
Other questions? Oh, Dr. Glatch, please.
Yeah, not a question, just a comment. I just want to applaud you all for taking action when you looked at your data. I mean, the fact that you changed the schedule, the fact that you changed your strategies, that you're continuing to research what's best, and then willing to make those bold moves, kudos to you. We need more of that in our system. And
Kudos to the teachers that are willing to do that.
yeah,
They're
it-
really
it paid
canvas
off.
for change.
Paid off. It's really exciting, so congratulations.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Clevin?
Just factual question, how many sections of each grade are in the building?
2 of every except 5th grade this year, 1.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from board members? Dr. Lund?
Just a quick one. I don't know if it's for one of you all or maybe for Mr. Baki, but I noticed in some of the cohort groups, there's groups of 1 or 2. And I thought we didn't report those groups when they were such low numbers. I just am curious.
Yeah, Dr. Lund, thank you. Yes, we try to stay away from those lower numbers. Yep, correct.
Other questions from board members? None from us. Any final thoughts? The floor is yours.
No, we just really appreciate your time tonight and glad we got to share our story. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Move on to item 4 on our agenda. This is our public comment period. Do we have public comment forms turned in? Doesn't look like I have any forms turned in. Is there anyone in the public assembly who wishes to speak during the public comment period? Seeing none, we'll move on to section 5 in our agenda. These are recommendations for discussion. 5A is our K through 12 mathematics curricular resource adoption. And it looks like we have some people. I wasn't certain who was presenting. Would you? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I think I better find out which one of these. Got it? Okay, thank you so much. All right, so hello, thank you, President Berger, Dr. Brenner, and School Board. We're just really thankful for this opportunity to bring to you our K through 12 math resource adoption recommendations. My name's Nicole Krefting. I am the Elementary Curriculum Coordinator, and I have my counterpart, Evan Kritzberger. He's our Secondary Curriculum Coordinator. We're here representing the CIT department and our leader, Chief Academic Officer Amy Barch, who isn't able to be with us tonight. So to start our talk tonight, I wanted to just give you a little overview of what it takes when we go through a curriculum adoption process. It's really quite lengthy. We've been doing this math work for the past 2 school years. So we start with that very first column that you can see called research and evaluation. And during that time, we have to really know deeply our state standards so that we're sure that we pick resources that are aligned to what the state is asking and demanding that we teach our students. We also really have to review legislation and see what kinds of requirements or mandates that we need to meet. We go to things like curriculum fairs and work with vendors so that we can see what resources are available for us. We have to take a long process to get to a final pilot selection where we choose the resources that we're going to look deeper into and have our students work with. And then we do some partnering with some of the education consortiums. SEEK down in the Fargo area and our RRVEC have been extremely helpful, getting us information and recommendations, along with people that we have worked with at the State Department. So that's step one. That took place last year for math. During that time, we had a steering committee that was composed of teachers, specialists, administrators, and people from our CIT department, and they really did that research part and dug deeply into what is it that we should look further into. Then we moved into the start of this school year, and that's where we had our pilot onboarding. After we chose the specific vendors that we were thinking would be the best for our district with the input from that steering committee, we then had to bring in the actual trainers from those resources to help train our teachers that were going to be piloting the resource. So as this pilot happened, we had teachers K through 12 who would be using the various resources we picked with students in their math curriculum areas, and then really dug into it to see if this would be a good fit for our district. Evan and I meet personally with those vendors and do the relationship piece where we work with them and see the needs that our teachers might have when working with their resources. And then we're also responsible for making sure the teachers get what they need in their classroom so that they can carry it out efficiently. So during this pilot with our teachers, and we'll share with you who those people were that really gave us their time and their dedication, we do a lot of planning support. So we work directly with them to ensure that they have the tools, the understanding, ability to ask questions, to plan out the resources that they're using. We do regular check-ins with them, both via Zoom and in person. Evan and I are out in the classrooms observing and working alongside the teachers so that we can really see it in action and see what it looks like with students. We get feedback sessions where we take their input. It might be answering questions that we then have to reach back out to the vendors for, or it might be things that they're just talking through, discussing together to look at teacher usability, to look at how the resource meets the needs of our current students. And then we work with those vendors throughout the whole time and establish good relationships with them so that we have their support along the way as well. And here we are in this final column where it says final recommendation. So tonight, that's what we bring to you, what our pilot groups have worked through, the recommendations they have for each of the grade spans, with some quotes that show the financial obligations and the openness to have questions that you may have after we share with you what we have worked through in the past 2 years, right? So first of all, I mentioned some math legislation. We do have a current Senate bill. It's Senate Bill 2213, and this has caused a lot of considerations as we're looking at resource adoptions. The bill is linked to all these different links in your presentation, but I just did a quick little overview so that you could see the highlights and how it would affect what we're bringing to you tonight. So really it has 4 big areas. It's in teacher licensure, in the curricular resources, in assessment, and in intervention. So with the teacher licensing, we now have very specific requirements that our teachers have to demonstrate high quality direct instruction and that they have what they need to be considered a math expert. Our curriculum has to be research-based and is aligned to the North Dakota standards. It also has to have in it inclusion of differentiation to meet all student needs. Assessment has to happen at regular intervals so that we can make moves immediately to ensure that students have what they need to be successful, and really that we can provide targeted interventions for each of those students who need additional support. And then finally, intervention, and this is a very big part of this legislation, that really we have a research-based intervention program that can support the different needs of our students and that has evidence-based instructional strategies within it. I should have my water with me. I'm talking too much here. All right, so here's a little overview of how we're planning on meeting some of these things. First of all, the professional development piece is in the works right now. We have to provide our K through 8 teachers with specific professional development to help increase their capacity in mathematics instruction. This includes special education teachers and our leadership teams as well. That is something that's in progress with the state right now. They do have some in-person trainings that are being rolled out, which is very difficult for a district of our size, as we have many teachers that we have to train, and it's pretty lengthy. So right now, we are waiting and looking for another opportunity they are working through with a company called School Kit, and that is for an asynchronous model, much like we used when we had our reading legislation, that we would have time with our many teachers to do throughout the school year next year. So that is in progress, and the state is working on completion of that right now. We also have these mandates, and this is a bill that has required mandates without funding. So what that means is it's the local districts that are required to meet the financial obligations for it, but we are required to have these things. So it is part of what we'll bring to you with our recommendations today, is keeping that in mind. And one of those is a screening process for early identification of mathematic deficiencies and characteristics of dyscalculia. We are fortunate that in our STAR CBMs that they had mentioned earlier, we already have those things in place. So that is already something that we do on a regular benchmarking interval in Grand Forks. We have to have information if a student shows a math deficiency or these characteristics, that we inform the parent or legal guardian and then provide them with additional resources. So we would have things that we would have that they would be able to continue math learning at home, but also that we would provide a plan, an accommodation plan that would support how we are meeting the needs of these students in the classroom. So if you look up at this slide, we have many resources that we started with. This just shows you in our K-12 year of research, these are the companies that we contacted. We went through very closely looking at what they had to provide us and how they aligned with our expectations and our state standards. And then we had to take this and narrow it down. So really at this point with all of these, we did many meetings where we had to do pros and cons and rate on rubric scales, and we came down to the final 2 at every grade level, or grade span, that we would pilot more closely. So I'm going to start with our elementary. This is our group of pilot teachers. We had teachers at every grade level. They really took on a huge load, a huge lift this year because it was year 1 of Wit and Wisdom implementation, and that is a very big lift for teachers when it's the first year with a brand new resource. So on top of doing that, these teachers also were piloting new math resources at the same time. So I just really want to thank these people for the extra time and the effort they put in to ensure that we had a really close look at the resources we were considering. We had 3 things at the elementary level. We wanted to keep everyday mathematics, which is our current resource. We have had it for many years. In fact, I am one of the old people that picked it in the first place over 20 years ago. And so it has been the resource that we have felt has been the best for our students for a very long time. Then we piloted in semester 1 another McGraw-Hill resource called Reveal Math. We actually piloted this K through 12. So at the same time, we had students and teachers working in it at every level of our K-12 system. And then the second semester, we piloted HMH Into Math, which was another resource that was available K-12. We were piloting it K through 8, had chosen to make that pilot. So this is the great news in this whole piece, knowing that with the budget realignment process, elementary was going to be putting a pause on a formal adoption. We felt very glad that when we did our results or we took our surveys, it still came out on top for the 3 resources that we picked. So when you look up there, you can see that really it was quite overwhelmingly the one that our pilot teachers, our specialists, and our admin who worked through the process felt was the best choice for us right now. So that made the pause something that really gives us time to say the resource we're using right now meets the needs of our students and our teachers. So this is what elementary is bringing forth to you tonight, that we would keep our current edition of Everyday Math for the next 2 school years. Then in that new 2028-29 school year, we would look at their newest edition and determine, does this still meet our needs, as it would be upgraded at that point, and we could see what else they would have to offer. With that, we would have, at the current time, the $121,327.13 per year fiscal responsibility, and this would give us the teacher and student online licenses and the student consumables we would need to keep our current edition going. That averages out to about $33.60 per student per year. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Evan, and he'll walk you through the middle and the high school.
Thanks, Nicole. So like Nicole said, I'm Evan Kritzberger. I'm the secondary curriculum coordinator. I like to say I'm the other Nicole. So I deal with all the middle and the high schools. And so similarly, I just want to thank all of our pilot teachers. So what they do, during this period this year is they are doing a different resource than all the other teachers in their building. They're trying things out. They're working with us and our vendors to figure out, what the best way to evaluate these things are. And it's a big, heavy lift. And so we really, really appreciate those teachers. For middle and high school, it's a similar process to elementary. So our current curriculums are different for middle and high. So we have Envision Common Core at the middle level currently, and then at the high school level, we have Big Ideas. So like Nicole said, semester 1, middle and high school, as well as elementary, all piloted Reveal Math. And we tried to line that up because that was one of the conversations that we had of what does vertical alignment look like and which is better, to have a similar resource K-12 versus is it better to pick a grade span resource which meets those needs, and I'll touch a little bit on that. So then semester 2, middle school did Into Math, same as elementary. High school decided to try a different resource because they felt that it had more potential to meet their needs. And so semester 2, they piloted Amplified Desmos Math. So when we got the feedback after we did both of our pilots, you can see again another overwhelming result where we asked teachers, would you recommend keeping your current resource? But unlike elementary, they said 100% no. So they said, please don't do that to us. Then for our semester 2 pilot, which was Into Math, it was overwhelmingly yes, this meets our needs. And we dove in and looked at what the alignment looks like. Would this be a better fit for us? And almost everyone agreed that this was the best match for us. So that pinky color is the good color. So the recommendation for middle school from our middle school pilot teachers is that Into Math from HMH is our best overall fit for the needs that we have, that we currently see, and also the materials work best with the students that we have. And one of the things I'll touch on a little bit later as well is that there are a wealth of resources and differentiation materials which help us meet some of those mandates for intervention programs. So for Into Math, it's a 7-year total of $634,611. Typically when we do an adoption cycle, they prefer that you pay all up front, all at once, but there's obviously separate and different ways to structure that. And so it would roughly work out where year 1 payment would be $99,896, and then year 2 through 7 would be $89,119. And so that works out to be about $50.03 per student per year. What I'll mention later, because you'll notice it's a little bit higher than what the elementaries is that it is because this curriculum is both the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 intervention program. So there's actually no separate intervention program if we adopt this. So when you add that cost factor in with elementary, it ends up being nearly the same. So then for our high school feedback, we asked our teachers, would you rather keep our current resource or go with 2 of our pilot resources? And again, you can see that the overwhelming opinion was that we actually keep our current curriculum. And a caveat with that is that the higher up in grade level you get with curriculum, the less structure there is. So when they piloted Reveal Math and Amplified Desmos, we only were able to pilot Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, because that's all that they make for programs for high school. They don't make a companion pre-calculus or advanced or AP. It's just those 3 grade levels. And so we had a long, in-depth conversation about what's better to acknowledge and look at the wealth of work that we've done in our current resource to adapt and meet those needs for things like our informal classes, our intermediates, our advanced. And is it worth bringing in a brand new resource and restructuring all of those things again? Or should we spend some time just shoring up the work that we've done in the past with those many classes? And so the consensus was that let's keep our current physical resource and let's do some really thoughtful work with realigning our practice and getting some consistency with that. So the high school recommendation for adoption is that for our current physical materials, we keep. So that's just the physical, non-consumable textbooks that we currently have within our district. So that's a $0 cost. We might have a slight cost if we have to send replacements, but we have enough right now that we anticipate for 7 years would be good. On top of that, we have to replace the online and the intervention program for high school because Big Ideas Current will sunset here in a couple of years, and so we'd rather be proactive than reactive. And so one of the things that the teachers realized through their pilot is that Alex, which is an amazing tool, fit their needs in a lot of different ways, including to replace that online portion of the textbook. I taught with Alex myself, so I'm a little bit biased, and I let the teachers know that, but it's a great tool, and I can speak a lot more to what that looks like for our students as well. So Alex is a one-time for 7 years cost. So it's $151,290.14. That gives us access for 7 years. So that brings about $862 per student per year. So then that will become our intervention and also our Tier 1 online for our high school curriculum. And that also replaces, so classes like pre-calculus, classes like informal algebra, informal geometry, intermediate algebra don't actually have an online platform. But with Alex, every single student in a math class would have an online portion that teachers would have reactive data for. So it's actually kind of going above and beyond what we have right now for less. In addition, like I said, most publishers do not have a set that includes pre-calculus. So our current textbooks, I believe, are 15 or more years old. I tried to pick up one of the books and it disintegrated. So our teachers asked if we could get a new one. And so we looked at that and piloted that as well at the high school level. So similarly, we just want the physical materials, non-consumables. So that would be a one-time for 1 year to purchase textbooks for 7 years minimum. And then finally, just to kind of fill some of the gaps, typically when we do a curriculum adoption, we get things like manipulatives, calculators, things like that come with it. Because we're not doing a formal at the high school, we're not recommending that. We just asked teachers what they felt that they needed for 7 years, and those are things like rulers, calculators, and things like that. And so that's encompassed in that $10,000 one-time fee for different various materials that a math classroom needs. So the last thing we'll kind of touch on, and it's kind of weird because they're a little bit together, but separately given our legislative mandates, is our intervention programs. So we reviewed as CIT, we looked at all the different resources that are currently out there. DPI does have a list of some of the approved programs, but the requirement is just that it's research-based. And so we reviewed all of these different programs and asked, what would be a good companion to the work that we're already doing, but also to meet the legislative unfunded requirement that we have. So for elementary, the recommendation is that we go with IXL. So per year, we would pay $48,395. And like I said, that brings the per student cost up by $13.40. So that's on par with what the middle level would be per student. And then luckily, because of the resource that HMH has, WAGGLE, that is already a Tier 2 intervention program that's integrated and is already a part of the curriculum. So there is no additional cost with that. So all of our per student, per year costs are pretty similar across elementary, middle, and high. So the overall cost proposal, Nicole, I'll turn it back for elementary.
And I'm just going to say with that IXL, another reason that was the one that we chose was it is aligned and uses the same language and structure as everyday math. So it would go very well with our core resource and have students be able to be working on the same thing that they would be doing in their Tier 1 whole group instruction. So for For our K-5 then, the cost for renewal would be that amount at the top, the $121,327.13 per year that we would have for the next 2 years. And then we would add in that IXL, which would be the intervention piece of it, for the $48,395 per year payment. And that would be part of that year one cost that you see at the bottom after Evan goes through the 6-8 and 9-12.
So then for 6-8, our into math is the $634,611 over the course of 7 years with those year 1 and then 2 through 7 payments. And again, the intervention program is a part of the tier 1 curriculum, so we're all good there. And then 9 through 12th, it's a zero cost for us to keep our current resources. Our books are in good enough condition where teachers felt that they were good for 7 more years. And then we've just got a one-time for our new pre-calculus books to update those from a couple cycles ago. And then just $10,000 to get some of those supplies such as calculators. And then for our intervention program, as well as for Tier 1, our ALEX to replace the online portion of what we have, which is a one-time payment of $151,290.14. So with all those numbers, it can get a little confusing because some are 1, 2, then the rest. But basically what it comes out to is that the year 1 cost, so if the board approves as recommended, the cost next year would be $440,461.25. Then the year 2 cost would be $258,841.13, and then past that, it is all dependent on the review of the elementary programs, but the middle and the high school would remain at the 2 numbers listed there. Thank you, and any questions?
Questions from board members? Dr. Lund?
Two really quick comments and then a question. One feedback is some of these are for 7 years and some are for 1 year. It'd be nice to either have a total and then a per year thing, just because it's a little confusing going back and forth between those two. Secondly, clearly the vendors are not rounders, because I don't know why they would come up with some $10,089 and just not round up or something. The question I really have, and now I'm drawing a blank. I knew I should have written it down. My synapses aren't working really well tonight. So am I under the impression that, so for elementary, we're withholding implementing, but for middle and high school, we're implementing starting this upcoming school year?
That is correct.
Can I say one elementary piece? So elementary is at that everyday math current thing. The cost up there is that we've run out of our deal that we had with them. It's already past our contract that we had with them prior. So for us to continue with the current, that's why we have those costs, is because now we have to go a year-by-year basis just for us to get the digital licensing and the consumables that it takes to keep the current edition.
So there will be some cost the first year with elementary?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Other questions from board members? I have 2. One is for either or both of you, and then one for Brandon. I heard you say at the high school level, the intervention program, ALEX, is sunsetting in a year or 2. I get it, it's a one-time, in a sense, to move to the new platform, and then that extends 7 years. Was there any discussion about if it's sunsetting in a year or 2, delaying that 151,000? Could you just talk us through why it makes sense? I heard something about staying ahead of it, but just to broaden that out for us a bit.
Yes, absolutely. So I apologize. So ALEX is the new program. Big Ideas, the current resource, has its own online portion that is sunsetting. ALEX is our replacement for that. So if ALEX goes anywhere, I'm scared. But no, ALEX is here to stay, I'll tell you that. So yes, I apologize for that.
Thank you. And then just a contextual question for Mr. Bombach. We went through a budget realignment process. We're delaying some curriculum adoptions and so on. Is this about what we had expected in next year's budget? Just give us a sense contextually, where the push and pull comes in next year's budget, if at a future meeting, because again, this is discussion tonight, but if at a future meeting the board elects to move forward with this recommendation, is this about the number we would have expected in the general fund?
Yeah, thank you. Chair Berger, members of the board, the answer is yes, simply put. So throughout the whole process, as you know, CIT and Amy Barch have been a part of the realignment conversations. I think there were 2 different realignment items associated with curriculum adjustments, including a deferral of a math adoption. This math adoption represents that actually. In some cases, you can say, let's not adopt something and continue to use what we currently have. In other instances, like in math, you still need to renew to keep some of the online resources current. So this selection is in line with that. And I would say, I hope to beat expectation just a little bit with just some of the price offering as we got further down the route. We're able to get a little bit better pricing by amortizing that out over to 7 years in that case.
Thank you. Other questions from board members? Mr. Clevin?
Thank you. This is probably directed to the speakers. Do any of these have a do-nothing alternative beyond what we're doing here? Like, we're not adopting one of them. Are there other do-nothing alternatives?
When you say do nothing, I'm assuming you mean don't renew and just continue with the current resource?
Or don't adopt a new curriculum and renew anything that needed to be renewed?
Yeah, so for 6-8, if we kept the current, so to kind of backtrack a little bit also to Dr. Lund, I am a math person and I also get confused by those numbers, so no worries. So the way that the vendors work typically for the Tier 1 curriculums is that we lock in a price, and that's why we do a 7-year contract. That's just what publishers tend to like, but then we pay that, quote, yearly price for 7 years. When you do year to year, you are subject to whatever the increase is every year, which is why we go in these cycles. And so right now, the only way to ensure what the price would be over the next several years would be to sign a certain year agreement. Obviously, we know we're not in a position where we want to do that unless we're sure that that's the resource we want. So without signing an agreement, if we kept our current middle school curriculum adoption, it would be $127,660 a year. With our new resource, it's actually a savings per year of $46,000. And that's assuming that there's no price increase with the current, which there will be next year. And then same thing for Big Ideas. It's a $30,620 per year if we continue to renew year to year. So going with our new resource year to year, it'd be a savings of just over $9,000.
Thank you.
Please. Could you just grab the microphone, please?
Sorry, I just said with elementary, keeping our current resource and just bringing those pieces in saves us the cost of the textbooks that the teachers would need, the teacher materials, and then we're pausing on the manipulatives and using what we currently have right now as well. Thank you.
Other questions from board members? Dr. Hodak?
Mine are not, more towards comments. And the comments are more about the fact that we had to have a Senate bill put this forth. And so I think I actually heard you use the word that I was looking for, unfunded mandates as well. And I think that as a school board, we need to make sure that we let the legislature know. And if you also look ESPB, who is starting to dictate even further the amount of education that teachers have to have, whether they're certified, certain areas and such, they are imposing all of this on schools without any extra funding, whether it's for the teacher that's a freshman at a university starting to say, hey, I want to go into this, but then here come all of these requirements. So my first question is, how does the state monitor or audit that we have done what these mandates are from the legislature? Is there reporting that we're having to do?
Yes, there is reporting. It's like our literacy bill that we previously had followed starting 5 years ago. We do have a yearly report. The reporting that happens, they check what curricular resources you use. So that is it something that is research-based? And does it align to our North Dakota state standards? But then with the professional development piece of it, we have to report how each educator that teaches mathematics has received the proper amount of mathematic training with their licensure, but also with the new requirements with, I was telling you, this asynchronous. We have to verify that that is completed, and that is turned in. It'll be yearly to start, and then once you meet certain requirements, which because the legislation already has been put in place, but they don't have the training done yet, we probably would have to report again the following year when we've had the opportunity to take that on. So we do have reporting that would happen the first year, and then if everything goes well, then you get put on a 3-year rotation.
And so that's another cost to the district, not just for the resources, but for the training and the professional development. And I just continue to find this, again, we are getting nailed by our own state for educating our students. Now, I'm not against the process and what you've done. I'm very impressed with that. And I appreciate all of that. But when you also made a comment about DPI does have a list for us, because one of my questions was, how much vetting does DPI, ESPB, the state legislature, how much vetting do they do of these companies? And again, it's another piece of work that we have to do. And I guess I'm really troubled by the fact that this is already was in place before a Senate bill had to come forward, and schools were doing this. But the fact that there were some schools that probably weren't doing it as well, that auditing and monitoring wasn't taking care of that as well. So I just want to thank you very much for it. And I think that this price and everything, this cost out, as well as you have done it, it does not include all of the other pieces of the puzzle that we have to pick up because of it. So I just want, for my sake, to say ESPB, DPI, and the North Dakota State Legislature, start giving us funding for what you're going to mandate. Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
If I may, just quickly, so full disclosure, I am vice chair of ESPB. And so, yeah. But I just wanted to say that ESPB is also subject to these things too. Unfortunately, most of what the changes have occurred have been through the legislature. So it's my 2 cents.
Yeah, to your point, Dr. Hodek, I was surprised there wasn't in this package or recommendation another half FTE to cover all of the extra work that comes along with this. It somehow is going to have to be absorbed within our staff. So I'm in full agreement. Mr. Clevin?
I'm still catching up with jargon here. What does ESPB stand for?
It stands for Education Standards and Practices Board. So it is the board which officially licenses all teachers and then also oversees all the teacher preparation programs within the state.
And then if you really want me to go there, ESPB, check out how much money that teachers have to pay to be licensed and the amount of money that ESPB has in its reserve, okay? Whereas it keeps going up for teachers to pay for a license in this state, not even compared to what administrators have to pay, because it's always teachers pay more than the school administrators do. I'm just saying, I'll try to be quiet.
Yeah, let's bring it back into the...
I'm actually going to encourage you to keep going.
No, just Mr. Clevin. Mr. Clevin, we're on curricular resource adoption, and we're discussing 5A on our agenda. Dr. Lund.
I'm just wondering if our administration could, maybe at the next time this is presented, make some comments about how we are going to handle those unfunded areas, because I'm sure they've got an idea. I don't want to put them on the spot tonight, but this will come back to us, and so maybe, and it's not like we have to have it down to the dollar and cents like the vendors do, but just a ballpark amount of what we're going to have to do.
Dr. Lund, one thing that would help answer that is part of why we're waiting for the professional development. That's the asynchronous. The one that would be 3 days in person per teacher. is not something that we would be able to fund for all of our teachers, but we have the alternative coming out, and which is going to comply as well. But we would be able to do it over the course of the school year, next coming school year, and then we would provide ways that we could fit that into some of the times that we use after school for staff meetings, or some of the ways that we could help teachers do that throughout the school day instead of taking additional time that they would need later. That's one of our solutions we're working through right now.
Am I to assume, and maybe this is a question for Dr. Brenner or Dr. Glatch or Mr. Bakke, that this will come back for action on May 26th, or has that not been put on the calendar? Yes.
May 26th.
Okay.
Mr. President, could I
Please.
just add one more thing?
Yes.
So the number that you see in front of you, that's the final number that Chief Academic Officer Amy Barch has worked on with these companies. That number started a lot higher than that. So we have a bargain hunter in the Chief Academic Officer position. So when she brings something forward, it's the bottom line.
Thank you. Other questions? Ms. Flynn?
I have a couple questions. Firstly, when you talk about intervention, a piece of the state requirements or intervention, and then we talked about it as far as a dollar amount and programs within programs, who's doing the interventions?
So at the high school level, I've worked it out with our vendor where all classroom teachers will get access to Alex, but also all of our co-teachers, special educators, and paraprofessionals will have access to the data of the students that they serve. Now, the primary delivery of that intervention will depend on the specific need. Obviously, we know if students have a specific IEP or intervention plan that will then be served to those requirements. But we're also having a lot of conversations at the middle and the high school level of what does that look like? Obviously, utilizing RTI time, but also if we need higher intensity tier 2 into tier 3, what does that look like and who delivers it? The idea with specifically the middle and the high school programs is that because it is attached to our tier 1 resource, we have a wealth of data to better target those things within the classroom, but they can still also be used as supports outside of the classroom for those additional supports as well.
Elementary-wise as well, the program that we're looking at, the IXL, meets students at all needs. So it's not just your students who need more support, but it's also for students who need enrichment and students that are on target. So part of what that would do would provide the teachers some time to work with the students who have the most need in a small group setting, because the rest of the students in that classroom could have that short amount of time that they would be getting their needs met through the IXL program, it's a computer adaptive, so it follows the path the students are on. As they learn more difficult things, it continues to grow them. It has tutorial services, and it would free up some of the time that the teacher would have during that math block to really pull those kids who had the strongest needs, which we know is the one-on-one time with the teacher is the best way to get that, and give her something productive that would meet the needs of those other students to work on, so she could have that time with the students during that math block time.
Okay, so I understand that for the special ed paraprofessionals, it was also talked about that we have these very kind of strict standards of who is teaching and what they have to do. So is it to assume that the paraprofessionals and special ed teachers are also getting this professional development as well?
The special education teachers are required to have that same process, as well as our ML teachers and our administrators.
Okay.
So all are required to have the professional development. And then within our buildings and what we're doing, we align what our paraprofessionals need to support that. So then that's where at the building levels, we come in and we do different professional development for them so that they can be the support system for the teachers in the classroom.
Okay. As far as the special assessment fund, special reserve fund, does that potentially cover any gaps in professional development, unfunded mandates, anything like that? I was trying to find the paragraph, but yes, I'm looking at you.
Mr. Baumbach?
Thank you, Chair Berger, Member Flynn. It does not. It has some pretty prescribed uses for it, including like the heating of your buildings and costs of your teachers on staff, but it's really only 2 or maybe 3 of those buckets, and so what you're describing is not one of them.
Okay. I had one more question. I'm not sure, like Dr. Lund, my whatever synapses are not firing. But it might come back to me, so.
We can come back to you, Ms. Flynn. Broadly speaking, board members, knowing that this is coming back to us on May 26th, other questions or clarifications that you wish to get answered to prepare yourself for the time when it's back before us for action? Ms. Flynn?
My comment came back to me. Is there a dollar figure or range that you could provide to us as to what the professional development costs for everyone would be?
Right now, the way that we're looking to do it, the asynchronous, that's provided by the state. So if we do that route, that is what they're working through School Kit, and we had that when we had the NDSOR, the North Dakota Science of Reading. They provide that, it's not a cost to us. What we have to look at is how do we fit it into our time? But it wouldn't be an additional cost for that piece.
So it could cost us in sub-salaries, potentially?
We haven't done it that way before. We've tried to fit it in some of our other, like after-school staff time where we're still on contract and would have some time to do it. Sometimes it's been part of our learning when we've worked together through some of our early release times so that we can find ways to try to meet it within that school day. When we did the NDSOR, we did not have substitute time that we used it for.
Okay.
Other questions?
And it could be anywhere between, they're roughly estimating around 20 hours that we would spread over the course of the school year.
Can it be done in groups? Like, sometimes like real estate certification, you have to do
Yep.
your module as an individual, you have to take the test.
You have to take your own tests, but could you go through it with a team partner and do the module learning and then go back and do your own tests? Everyone has to do their own completion of the expectations, but you could be watching it with a team and talking through it as you're doing it as well.
Okay.
Other questions from board members? Anything from administration related to this discussion? Mr. Bakke, Dr. Glatch, Dr. Brenner? Okay. Final thoughts from you to prepare us for a decision 2 weeks from tomorrow?
Math is fun.
I just want to say that really, as Dr. Brenner said, we really tried to look at how could we do the best for our financial obligation and still have the resources we know our students and our teachers need to be able to really teach math effectively. And so there was a lot of time and process and a lot of different scenarios we went through to try to find this combination of resources that still could quite reduce where we started, but give the quality, high quality resources to our teachers so that they could deliver and our students could have results.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to 5B, Government Affairs Committee report. Vice President Anderson, I believe you chaired that meeting. Do you want to kick off this discussion?
Sure, yeah. Quick synopsis of the meeting. We met on April 16th, as the minutes show. We were fortunate to have a couple legislative members join us in Senator Sickler and Senator Meyer. Really, there was a discussion around some numbers they've been provided and more maybe less than clear expectations about upcoming budgets and what should be prepared for. But there was a lot of discussion, and I think one really beneficial piece of the conversation was, they really encourage us to continue to share with them issues we're having as a school district and bring forward what challenges there are. And, they also encourage to come together sometime later in the summer with the whole group in a meeting of the same form, however, in person, to really have a deeper conversation going into next winter and the legislative session, what we can expect, how to move forward. At this point, the K-12 budget is on Governor Armstrong's list of held harmless. That's at this point, but they were cautious to give us anything other than, let's continue to talk and please share your challenges. So I think the more we can be in line and continue to discuss and talk with them, the better off we're going to be. So Mr. Clevin was also present, so I would ask if he had anything. Thank you.
I can't do better than you did using the microphone this time.
So before we open it up to board members for discussion, any comments, Mr. Bombach, from your perspective, Dr. Glatch, Dr. Brenner? We'll just go in that order. Mr. Bombach, anything to add from what Vice Chair Anderson shared?
No, thank you, Chair Berger. He said it all.
Dr. Glatch, is there anything that you want to add? Dr. Brenner?
I'll just add that there was, again, conversation around school lunches and school breakfast, and if that becomes something in the Constitution, that it's likely that it will come out of our foundation aid payment. So I think people maybe really didn't understand when there was a special legislative session that if the legislature would have handled that, then it wouldn't be something would be a constitutional measure. So I think we're going to feel the effects one way or the other. The other thing that I will share is with Team Grand Forks, and Board Member Larson was at our last meeting. One of the priorities that has never made the list for Team Grand Forks is foundation aid. School district, we've kind of been on our own, but there's more receptivity and openness for our local leaders to include that in the list of priorities. We are one of the economic engines in the community, and paying our people a livable wage is important for our community as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Open it up to other board members for a discussion related to this report from the Government Affairs Committee or these issues and challenges moving forward. Any questions, comments, or items for clarification? Yes, Ms. Flynn?
I will say that this group has been more willing and open to have conversations than I think in the past. They have definitely provided us with a lot more information related to what's up and coming, what's kind of interim, and the work that's been done. But I'll be frank to say that it is not Team Grand Forks if we are not moving things forward that directly impact one of the largest employers and educators of our young youth, if those priorities do not go on the list of Team Grand Forks. So I think that just needs to be very clear that we have to work together for the betterment of our city and our state. And I hope with the efforts and progress that we've made that we will see a better version of Team Grand Forks this budget cycle.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from board members related to this committee report? All right, as you can see, this is a discussion item for this evening. No action is required. We'll move on to 5C, Native American Graduation Regalia Update. Dr. Glatch.
Thank you, Chair Berger. Members of the board, you'll see a memo from me about some exciting updates that we have to our graduation ceremonies coming up in a very few number of days here. So there's a task force that was organized, I believe you're aware of that, to look at additional ways to recognize our Indigenous graduates in addition to the traditional eagle, feather, and plume. And that task force took its time. We examined a multitude of ways to do just that, to make sure that the unique cultural and spiritual and historical identities of our Indigenous graduates were uniquely recognized during the ceremony. So you can see in this memo that there's a list of things that you will notice on display at this year's coming graduation ceremonies. One is that graduates were afforded the opportunity to wear a unique stole. There are two different styles that were pre-made or prefabricated that were in Native culture, and then a blank stole that was made out of Native trade cloth that could be beaded uniquely according to the students' cultural heritage. Also, students are invited to display the star quilts. The star quilts are awarded at the Native American graduation ceremony, which is actually this Wednesday, but they have not brought those forward to our greater graduation ceremony, so they may display them on the back of their chairs. And then students are also invited to write a little essay or vignette about what their culture means to them. And we intend to accumulate those and put them in another supplement to the graduation program in an effort to educate our broader community. There will also be a statement in the regular program about what is going to be on display and the why behind it. And so we're really proud of these efforts to make sure that we are really looking for ways to celebrate the culture, as I mentioned before. So at this time, I'm just posed to take questions, and if you have any of them, I will do my best to answer.
Questions from board members for Dr. Galach? Dr. Lund?
I know the answer, I'm sure, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. I'm assuming none of this runs afoul with any of our policies and procedures that we already have in place.
That is correct. And Mr. Bakke corrected me. It is not this Wednesday is the Native American ceremony, but the following Wednesday.
Other questions from board members for Dr. Galach? Oh, thank you. Dr. Hodak.
I just have one comment. When I think it's excellent what you have put together here, what are you going to do with those short essays afterwards? Is it a possibility of putting them on the website, on the school site, underneath something called graduation or something, to once again give future students that are, because you may not get a lot of students writing that essay at first, and then to see the value, and then to also recognize that we are honoring them by putting that someplace for all to see.
That has not been discussed. That's a great idea. Thank you for that.
Other questions from Ms. Flynn?
For the, I believe the Eagle Feathers and Century Code, but for these other things that are unique to our school district, is there like a approval process or application process that a student would have to do, or is there like a prompt that's going to be given so they know to write an essay, or?
Yes, all that has been navigated through the offices of our high school principals, so the students have been sent emails inviting them. There were some surveys that were administered to students and families to get us to this point, just to get some input along the way of the task forces as we made progress towards our final decisions. And otherwise, we've just sent out the invites and students have responded accordingly. So some students are choosing not to wear anything that is unique. Some students are choosing from the 3 options that are available to them, so it's kind of individual to the student.
Okay. This is sort of related, but as I looked at this, I went back and reread the policy. We had just changed adding that language to the graduation requirements. And in the line of what we added, it says something like any addition should be approved by administration. And so perhaps not that we need to change the policy again, but I'm wondering if we just clarify that it's building administration, because administration can mean a wide variety of people. But
Any thoughts or comments on that particular point? Dr. Brenner?
I can add to that. Sometimes when we just say administration, it gives us the latitude
Sure.
that it's either building level or district.
Sure.
Good question, though. Thank you.
Other thoughts or questions, Ms. Flynn?
No.
Okay. Mr. Clevin?
So, like, I'm going to ask a question with all respect and sensitivity. I understand the first and second bullet lists have a distinct cultural affinity, from what I understand it to be. And I'm not trying to put words in people who grew up in that culture, but I wonder about number 3. What would prohibit any student from wanting to partake in a short essay? You know, could that be a more expansive sort of practice that each student could have a chance to opt into?
Dr. Glass, you want to illuminate that conversation just a bit?
Yeah, I will, and I think it actually ties into numbers 1 and 2 as well. So the broader context of this is that according to I want to say it's Title VI laws, we cannot prohibit cultural expression once open to any given group. And so there was a lot of thought put into what we came up with, knowing that there may be other cultural groups that request unique representation of their culture. So that is something that could grow in the future. We also want to make sure that there is a capacity, and I don't want this to come across wrong either, but we all understand, I think, the context of where I'm coming from, but some capacity for administration to have some control over what that means, because there are some forms of cultural expression that we've seen on display that really conflict with our values. and we are not going to cross that line. And so this allows us to have some control over what is on display during that ceremony, which is intended to be a celebration of a class. We want to allow some uniqueness within that, but within some boundaries. One thing I want to point out to that end, and it ties into the policy that you referenced before about graduation attire. So every student receives a cap and gown, standard cap and gown. Those are distributed and to every single student, but not every single student has a stole that might indicate something in addition to that. So you have noticed in the past the National Technical Honor Society stoles, the Honor Society stoles, the rider ropes. Those are items that are, if you will, controlled by administration and distributed, which is why we went with the stole instead of a beating of the mortarboard and allowing that sort of a cultural display, because there would not be any way to monitor what comes on display then. Not that we have any concerns whatsoever about our Native American students taking advantage of that, but as this opens up the door, according to Title VI guidelines, there could be some room for interpretation there that we want to make sure that we're navigating. So that was a very long answer to a short question, but I hope it helped explain the context.
Very good insights, thank you. Do you have a follow-up, Mr. Clevin? Other questions from board members? Dr. Hodak?
In follow-up to Jay's, that's why I brought out that if we place those digitally, because I would assume that there will be some other cultures that are going to do that. And then just graduation attendees in that third bulletin made available to all graduation attendees. I'm considered a graduation attendee. So you may want to clarify that to graduation graduates. As otherwise, I'm concerned that somebody may say, well, I'm going to attend, so I have a essay as well, too. Just throwing that out for you to consider.
Sure. The intent of that, and thank you for that, is that we'll have them, when people come in to watch the graduation ceremony, we will have that supplement available for anybody to. So thank you for that wordsmithing recommendation.
Yeah, so in other words, the essay that's created is available to everyone attending, not that the avenue to communicate is available to all attending. Yep, I think that's duly noted. Other comments from board members? Any final thoughts, Dr. Glatch, that things that haven't been covered, a way you want to frame how the process went, or looking ahead to this upcoming commencement season?
Just one shout out, our life skills teacher, Ashley Stavness, literally took time to cut the cloth to make the stoles, put a lot of time and effort into something, kind of working from a blank slate, and I'm grateful for her for going through that process.
Thank you. Once again, this was a recommendation for discussion this evening, so no action is required from the full board. Moving on now to Section 6, these are recommendations for action. 6A is our consent agenda. I would seek a motion to approve the consent agenda as outlined in your board packet. It's moved by Dr. Lund. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. We'll take a roll call vote.
Lund?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. 6B, consideration of proposed revised process for TIF and pilot tax incentives. Mr. Baumbach?
Thank you, Mr. Berger, members of the board. Bringing back to the conversation we had, the board memo just captures that this has been talked about both during the March 23rd and April 27th meeting. And then I note just a few differences and notes I had taken from the last conversation and properly incorporated. So I included an intent statement that was added to the very beginning of this. This statement was reviewed by our attorney, and so it was the suggested language. Another point, though, just to make through the rest of the document, the attorney did not review the rest of the document. We stopped right there because that statement itself says this is not legally binding, so we didn't put any more time in there. Throughout the rest of the document, I adjusted a few things. One was more clerical. There was this reference of work session rather than meeting, and so change those to meeting to be more consistent and also in line with our own expectations about what takes place during a school board meeting versus a school board work session, and specifically allowing for public comment, which is discussed. That's a fine enough point to bring up that has been noted that the 5-minute limit we discussed at the table. I didn't capture it or put it in here. 5 minutes per speaker per project. The per project component of what I just said was not included. It was a mistake of mine just in notes. So if it's an adjustment you'd like, I think just adding those 2 words to the second to last sentence in step 2 of this process could clarify that, if that makes sense. Other changes would be, again, there's a couple of relics from prior versions stuck with a plural reference to meeting. So meetings, and we're only talking about one common meeting. And then lastly, just a little bit of language to clarify where the Department of Commerce's primary sector certification would come to play or not play in this. I just had clarified that language, so please give that a read and let me know if that needed to be adjusted at all. Otherwise, it's everything that we had seen before, so looking for your conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Baumbach. First of all, any questions from board members? Mr. Clevin?
Thank you. So this is your work product based on our meeting notes. This wasn't a collaborative effort yet with the city or county.
Correct. Jay, I had spoken to Todd Phelan. I said, are you okay if this school board makes its changes and then passes those along? And that was something he thought would be okay.
Follow-up, Mr. Clevin, or? Okay. Other questions from Mr. Palmasino?
Yeah, I would agree with that, adding that comment about 5 minutes per project. I think that clarifies for a lot of people that would like to speak, so.
Just a note on that for procedure, if that is, a motion that a board member wishes to make at some point on this agenda item, you can simply make the motion with the addition of these 2 words to this section rather than a motion to this recommendation and then going through the amendment process afterwards. So I'm not sure we're at that point yet, but that's it's a good note, Mr. Palmasino. Other questions or comments from board members? Ms. Flynn?
This might just be a small typo, but under step 1, in the middle of the paragraph where it talks about the Department of Commerce, it says, in addition, the city shall contact and consult with the North Dakota Department of Commerce regarding the pilot incentive request, and it's what is that supposed to say?
Thank you for catching that. I believe it's meant to say fit, F-I-T, and it's fit.
It's fit to the, okay, thank you.
Others, Ms. Flynn?
More so just a process question, because I don't think that we have ever received, as far as the information that we get, I don't think we've ever received the Department of Commerce's opinion of the project type. So I don't know if we will receive that moving forward. But I know, obviously, if it doesn't meet that, then we wouldn't really have a need for a meeting, I'm guessing. I just don't know that we've ever seen that before.
Do you want to speak to how that might play out in practice, Mr. Baumbach?
Yeah, thank you, Board Chair. Member Flynn, I think it's a very reasonable ask to include. I agree with you. I don't think we've seen that before. So it seems reasonable to ask for it.
My last question is, given the county commission's recent meeting and future vote on their stance on the sort of residential real estate projects, is this process now outdated?
Do you want to take a shot at answering that, Mr. Baumbach?
Sure. Members of the board, I don't know.
Do you want to offer your opinion, Ms. Flynn, or do you want to yield to Dr. Lund?
Dr. Lund.
Oh, okay. Well, Dr. Lund, you're up next, and then we'll come to Mr. Clevin.
Well, I think Mr. Manley asked about the Commerce letter too last time, and I don't think we need to put it in this document, but I think we could request it if it's pertinent. I just don't, we don't need to add to the document, I don't think.
Mr. Clevin?
Yeah, just commenting on, is this process now out of date or moot or irrelevant? I would think it's still very valid. We just know going forward, there's one of the three entities, we kind of know their position. They have the equal opportunity to still speak and be spoken to, and we have the equal right and opportunity to listen or not listen. So I don't think this document, the act of the county, changes this process. That personal observation and a personal preference. I'd still like this process to get modified and we move on.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Manley?
And Brandon, or maybe if anybody else knows, but if, let's say the city agrees to it, the county and the school board disagree, that would still go through, the city would forego their part, but we would receive ours.
Yep. Thank you, Member Manley. I think we've explored that option before, that if any one of the municipalities doesn't participate, then they could continue without that share of the property tax incentive. And obviously, in this case, the city starts the process. If the county and school board don't want to participate in that tax exemption, then when it goes back to the city, they'll have that choice to make of whether or not that works for them yet.
Others? Dr. Hodak?
I'm pretty much in agreement with what I believe I heard from Board Member Flynn, and respectfully to you, Jay. I do believe that this now becomes moot because of what the county is deciding to do. Because if you look at step 2, down there, the meeting will be held for the purpose of, to the school board, county commission, and what it says there, those 3 little words, commence the negotiation. So if we're going to be at one meeting and we're going to start to do negotiations, I myself would be uncomfortable with not having talked at the school board and say, okay, if we're going to negotiate, what are we negotiating for? And so I think that what the county has done is very brave. I think it's pertinent to the fact that when there is saying they are not going to consider any tax incentives for non-primary sector business, and they even went on further to talk about the residential projects, retail services, hospitalities, etc. I think that they've looked at it a little bit more in depth, and they are looking at the fact that they need money, and they would prefer not to be letting any of that money go, no matter what. There was also some concern about, are we going to be working towards changing legislation so that it does specifically say that the primary sector projects have to be qualified projects, etc. So overall, I will vote no on this at this point.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from board members? Mr. Palmasino?
Yeah. My only comment, I think we have to remember that the county will be changing 3 members, could be changing 3 members, and this board could be changing 5 members. So I think this is, whether we move forward or not, this could be changed by new boards at any time. So, and no board can dictate what another board has to do. So I think we have to remember that as well.
Sure. Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Clevin?
This is a question for Mr. Baumbach. This covers any form of pilot for any form of project requesting a pilot, correct? Not just residential. This would apply to anything, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up? Would the clarification be the city can still approve if it wants to take it on its own 5-year max, that would be an exception to Mr. Clevin's question, correct?
Yeah, thinking through that little bit of hoops there, yes, the city certainly retains, it has a right for any pilot less than 5 years unless the state law were to change.
Thank you. Ms. Flynn?
So just as a clarification, what is the purpose of the city contacting the Department of Commerce regarding the pilot incentive requests and its definition of primary sector business?
Sure. Thank you. I think that the purpose primarily is to delineate between the primary sector. Primary sector is a status that's been, is dealt by the Department of Commerce primarily along two lines. One, that there's added value to a product or a process, and then two, that there's primarily markets are export. And so you're driving value into your community. And so they've been in control of that definition, and then that status of primary sector certification can get you access to, I think, a variety of different economic development programs, not just this. So I think the functionality in this context is to then delineate for those, what's noted here by example of a Greasto or the Simpots high bay freezer, that if in this process those projects came forward, they would not be held against the but-for test as referenced, as in getting the consultants to do that review of the financials. It's more of a decision of, will we compete for their placement of that business? So I think that's the functionality, and so when that letter comes back on any multifamily project or anything that doesn't qualify for that, then you get the rejection letter, so to speak.
Sure. I appreciate that. And just to clarify something Dr. Lund said, I don't think that it necessarily needs to be in here as far as like, we have to receive, like, I think that's just a statement of like, that should be a part of the entire application. And we haven't received any of that letter or any of those letters before. And so just as we would get the Baker Tilly report, the financing application, we've never seen those to delineate what the definition is for each project. So, and then, for what Jay had commented on, I don't know if I really have an opinion on if this is moot or not. I think the process will largely change if it's just us and the city sitting at the table, if it's a non-starter for the type of project that's coming through. I wouldn't consider that a waste of time, but I think given our financial position, it will be interesting to have conversations with just the city if that's how some of these projects shake out, knowing the ones that are currently in the pipeline.
Thank you. Mr. Clevin, did you have something? No? Other questions, comments from board members? Dr. Lund?
If we approve this document, it doesn't tie our hands, it doesn't tie future board hands. I move we approve the document with the addition of the 5 minutes per speaker per project addition.
Can I ask one qualification from you, Dr. Lund, before I get a second? We also had talked about one typo.
We can change it to fit if that's what it is.
Okay, yeah, in step 1 from FIR to FIT, and in step 2, adding the words 5 minutes per speaker per project. So are you comfortable with that being the motion on the floor? Okay, just so board members understand, the motion on the floor is to accept this combined Grand Forks local government subdivisions payment in lieu of tax incentive review process guideline document, with the 2 changes being a typo in step 1 from FIR to FIT, and adding the words per project after the phrase 5 minutes per speaker in step 2. So that's the motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Clevin. Any discussion on the motion that's on the floor? Ms. Flynn?
I'll just say philosophically, I may not agree with some measures that go on ballots, but I will always sign someone's petition or their thing because I think that everything is up for discussion. With that being said, I philosophically agree with what the county commission has done. But I would like the developers to come here and pay the money and let us tell them what we think about their project when the project comes. And so if they want to apply and pay the money and we have concerns about that, then more power to them to want to build a project, but we can share our concerns or comments or great things about the project to them, and can have that conversation. So I just hope that this process allows anyone who has a request and is asking for a tax incentive financing to be more prepared, and to help us understand how each of those projects will benefit the school district, and not have a detrimental finance impact.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Dr. Lund?
I agree with Amber completely, and the reason I mean, I understand the county's position. My concern is there may be a project that might be labeled as residential in 3 years that is an ideal fit for the community of the school district, and why not, don't slam the door too early. Let us hear the proposal, and then if we agree, then we can do it. So I agree with Amber completely. I think we should hear those projects. I would hold a dim view of some of the projects that we've approved before now. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to piggyback on that point before I open it up again. You know, I know full well that 50 days from now, I'm not on the board, right? To Mr. Palmasino's point, we'll have 4 or 5 new faces, and I don't want to make that decision for them. I don't feel comfortable making that decision for them. I feel like there's been good work that's gone into this process, and it leaves the opportunity for dialogue and conversation and good sound decision-making, and board members exercising collective judgment. So for that reason, I'm in support of this. Any other thoughts, questions from board members? Okay, again, just one final time before we'll call a roll call vote. The motion on the floor is to approve the combined Grand Forks Local Government Subdivisions Payment in lieu of Tax Incentive Review Process Guideline document with the 2 changes previously illustrated. One is a typo and one is adding the phrase per project. I will take a roll call vote.
Hodak?
No.
Clevin?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Palmasino?
No.
Berger?
Yes,
7 yes, 2 no, 0 absent.
motion passes. 6C, consideration of proposals for scoreboards at Grand Forks Central High School Gymnasium. Mr. Biermeyer?
Thank you, President Berger. Board, thanks for having me tonight. Excited as we move through this process, just another step. And as you guys consider the proposal that I put forward. So tonight I'm going to talk about 3 different proposals, 3 different projects that we've talked about before. First one is going to be with Grand Forks Central, the scoreboards that we're going to be looking to put up there. So I will move forward. Double check it's on. Got to have power. Okay. So all 3 projects have similarities between them, especially the gymnasiums. But the Cushman Field one that I'll talk about on the 3rd one is very different. So I'm just going to kind of go right at it here. When I looked at a point system, 100 points total, right off the bat, as you can see, I had 2 proposals that were sent in for all 3 projects. Daktronics out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Lucent HD out of Grand Forks, right here in North Dakota. By far and away, when I did the point system, Daktronics was clearly head and shoulders in a lot of different areas that I want to go through those specifically. So as we move forward, as you can see, the price of the central project was more with Daktronics. However, we want the lowest responsible bidder, one that I feel most comfortable with, the one that I feel that has the longevity, the references, all those different aspects that are in that scale and that point system. So here's a rundown of that point system. As you can see, I gave Daktronics a 21 on the pricing. They were more money. And Lucent got the full 25 on that one. The quality of the project, I gave Daktronics, and again, I have more slides that you've taken a look at, but I can go through these in a little more detail. But the quality of the project, what we're getting from them, definitely the Daktronics was superior to what the Lucent HD was providing. Therefore, the point systems was 25 versus 10. The next couple ones, I asked for references. I asked for specifically, give me 10 high school references in North Dakota and Minnesota that you have put scoreboards up. I got plenty more than 10 from Daktronics. I got one from Lucent HD. That was troubling to me. I only had one high school that I could call as a reference. The other ones that they had out there were very similar to what Daktronics maybe has done in larger scopes with, college and professional, and we know that Daktronics is also in those areas. Years in business. I asked in the proposal that the business that the bidder goes that has at least 15 years in dealing in these projects. Daktronics has somewhere between 4 decades of doing this. The Lucent HD, in their proposal, the two main people have 18 years of experience in different businesses, but Lucent HD has only been around since approximately February of 2024. The problem, and the reason why I wanted years in one business is I want to see how is this business done in the previous 15 years? I want to talk to references that put boards up 10 years ago. Things happen, things break. How does their customer service work? That was part of the process with that, and why I asked for 15 years. And with Lucent, it just wasn't there. Therefore, the point system I put out there is accordingly. Regional presence. When you look at projects like this, and you're looking with scoreboards, Sioux Falls is considered regional, and they literally have hundreds of these projects in a 5-state area, if you want to include Nebraska, Iowa, and things like that. So they are very regional. They have things in Crookston, Grafton, the West Fargo. But I gave them 8, but Lucent's right here in Grand Forks. So I gave them the full 10 out of 10. Compliance of the bid, of what the RIP, and then the integration. I put those together. They're different, but now we're getting down into smaller numerical amounts. Compliance with the bid was difficult to give Lucent any extra points, as you can see, where they failed in a couple of them. Integration, I think, is also important. When we have multiple scoreboards, multiple gymnasiums, at Central, we sometimes, as I just did last week, we sometimes have to swap parts out in panels. Panels are older, they start to break. It was a simple thing, but it's an antenna that broke. I can swap it out easy with another antenna. That's part of that integration. Another part of integration is our people that are running those panels, it's like learning another language. I want to be able to have integration with our current system, and it's possible even if you have different companies. The integration with Lucent just wasn't there. And then again, the experience that I talked about, not only with the years of service for decades, but what kind of experience have they had with Grand Forks Public Schools at all? We just do not have a relationship with Lucent. I'm not comfortable moving forward in that situation. So that's the total point system, and we can kind of get into it a little bit more here. So again, I'll reiterate a little bit. On the 15 years in business, that's where Daktronics stepped up or had more. The minimum references in the state of North Dakota and Minnesota, I got the full gamut there from Daktronics and only one from Lucent. Here comes the technical part of it. Now, what I required was an approximate 9 by 16. I didn't want someone to come in with a 20 by 30. It's not going to fit in our gym. So both of them are pretty close, but as you can see, the Daktronics is slightly bigger, but that's not the biggest piece right there. So that's okay. But when you look at like the resolution, so here's my example is you walk into a box store and you're going to buy a TV and you're going to buy a 50-inch TV. I think we probably all know this. But you can look at the one that's $300 and you can look at the one that's $500 or $600, drastically different. What we have here is in the pixel pitch, the smaller the number, the better. Lucent has a 3.91 millimeter, Daktronics has a 3.7. More importantly, total resolution. The 1152 by 640, that's not a number that, and I'm not an expert at it, but that's not a number that I'm extremely familiar with. But I think even some of you can look at it and say, oh, 1280 by 720? I've heard of that. I've heard of that when I look at a TV or some other things like that. That is true HD. When you are in the gymnasium and you're looking at these boards, you are definitely going to see a difference between what the Daktronics puts out there, their product, versus the Lucent HD. I think we can even see that in some of the billboards around town. When you drive by, some of them are even hard to even understand what the words are, and then others are really crystal clear. That's kind of my couple examples of the quality that we're getting out of these two products. Here's another piece. What we call fragmented sourcing. I asked that all the products be from the same manufacturer. The panel that our workers are sitting at, the scoreboard, and the video board. In my experience of buying different scoreboards and different things like that, I have had the problem where I will call up, as an example, the panel board is not working properly, and I have to call company A. And they say, it's your board's problem. I go over and I call the board. I call up company B. And they say, it's the panel problem. And they go back and forth, but you know who loses? We lose. So I felt it very important, one manufacturer. Lucent brings theirs from multiple sources. Daktronics, not only is it one manufacturer, they're the manufacturer. They design, they create, they produce all those products right in Sioux Falls. You can drive down there any day and walk through and get that tour. They test all of them. Even their curriculum has been around for over 15 years, used across the state of North Dakota. The curriculum from Lucent, I did not get one reference in the state of Minnesota or North Dakota that's using it, but they had a couple references or alluded to Texas is where they were using them. Might not be a big deal, but when you start talking about all the different pieces come from different places, and in fact, very specifically, the control panel was coming from St. Petersburg, Florida, and the board was coming from Ontario, Canada. I don't feel comfortable with that. I want one manufacturer, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And there's the current hardware integration that we already talked about, not only just the hardware pieces, but I think the people learning the process and what they need to do. So in the end, there may be more of an upfront cost with Daktronics, but I think all those other things that we described clearly lead you in the direction of moving forward with Daktronics. So in the end, that's what I'm recommending, is that we move forward with the capital expenditure with Daktronics for Grand Forks Central Gymnasium. And again, I know it's on there, but I want to reiterate, the funds for this are all coming from private sponsorship advertising. This is not a general fund expenditure. And we will not move forward until we have received all of those funds. So I'll entertain some questions.
Just going to apologize. My Dexcom is at the end of its 10-day cycle, but I'll turn my phone off. Questions for Mr. Biermeyer? Mr. Clevin and then Mr. Palmasino.
Thank you, Bill. How many people were on the selection committee or review committee for the RFPs? And Were all these scoring metrics clearly defined in the RFP documents?
The first part was 3 of us, Tony Bina, Tyler Nelson, and myself, the 3 athletic directors. And I would like to say that they were clearly defined, but I haven't been on the other side of an RFP. I think they were clearly defined, and even I spoke to both companies as I had a question for each one of them and asked if they had any questions. So I gave, kind of gave both of them the opportunity to ask any questions.
My
Mr.
question isn't more that they understood them. The question's more of, I'll pick an example here, like years in business, 10 points available. Was there a metric that defined how the points are assigned? Or did it even say it's a simple pass-fail criteria? Because these things get to when you procure on basis other than lowest price. So these questions have to be answered.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't think I had a rubric style for each one of those. And I apologize if that's something that should have been done. And it wasn't a pass-fail where you get all the points or nothing. I think it was down to a comparison of the two. That's my best answer.
Okay. Mr. Palmasino, did you have something?
Yeah, I do agree with Mike on the issue of having everything coming from one location, not getting parts, because I've been on the other end waiting for parts for a scoreboard that are coming from this town. And secondly, I think the important part for him as well as for us is that we need the best product, not just the cheapest product, because we are asking the general public to pay for it, or donors to pay for it. So we need the best product out there that constantly works, and I know Daktronics can provide that best product.
Other questions? Mr. Manley?
And just to reiterate, or make it more clear, I suppose, for the public, because I heard some rumblings online about the source of funds for this, and after what's happened recently, and then we're spending some money on scoreboards. Can you reiterate where the funds for these are coming from?
All private donation. So this is a project that we have been, I guess, we've been working on as far as even a thought process for about 2 years, knowing that if we want to do this, we're going to need to look at our community. And if the community says, and we're talking businesses, if the community says, we don't want this, then they're not going to support it. So again, I appreciate that. And to reiterate, to make sure the public understands, this is not general fund money. This is not their tax dollars going into these boards. In fact, I think it's even more of a savings that in the past, I think schools have bought some of the scoreboards, let's say basic ones. We're helping the schools save some money by even asking for fully funded new scoreboards. And I hope that the public understands that and appreciates the businesses that have stepped up for this project.
Other questions from board members? Dr. Lund?
Brandon, from a Century Code standpoint, does it matter if we approve this, but we're not distributing any funds because it's coming from private sources? Is there a difference with regards to Century Code and our obligations?
No, Dr. Lund, I don't think Century Code would speak to exactly how we pay for that. We should just be able to account for that based on the sources coming in, hold them for the project, and pay to the right place.
Other questions? Dr. Hodak?
Just for clarification, Mike, we have on this agenda the consideration of proposals for Red River, Grand Forks, and Cushman. When you say that the donors are paying for this, is it possibility that Cushman gets all the money by donors, or are the donors earmarking money for the 3 different ones? Or are they earmarking it for all 3? Just so that we don't have Cushman got theirs, but we didn't get it for Red River. And is there any possibility that that could be happening?
I think with a lot of things, there's a possibility, but what's the probability? I don't think it's high at all. When we go out and solicit the funds for this, every business that we have talked to, except for 2, have said, I want to be part of all 3. So the funds are coming in very equal and very smooth at this point. We're not there yet. We're getting really close. So the timing of this is perfect. If we had a business A and a business B that were both interested in the same sponsorship but only wanted to be on a Central or a Red River, we certainly would do that. That hasn't come through yet, as most businesses have said, I like all 3.
Just to follow up on that, Mr. Biermeyer, this amount that we're talking about contingent upon the funding, is there any long-term impact, maintenance, support that either these external donors will support on an ongoing basis or eventually might, through no necessarily fault of anyone's, but just, here we are 10 years down the road, could it ever be a case where in order to keep them going, it's now a part of the building fund? Or have you talked about a long-term sponsorship plan?
It's a great question, because often you get a project and it's paid for and then you're done receiving funds. In this case, what we did is we'll call it like a profit and loss, where the funds that are coming in from the businesses are going to continue to come in, and what we've told them is very clear that we want to have a set amount of funds so that in the 12, 15, 17 years from now, if that panel has to be replaced at $200,000, we have the funds. So we've put that together as a protection for the district, and I believe it's very solid.
Thank you. Other questions from board members? Mr. Clevin?
I think Dr. Hodek hit on a topic that needs some caution. Like, we can't proceed with one high school not doing the other high school. We can proceed with Cushman and either the 2 high schools don't proceed because both high schools and middle schools use Cushman. I would not be supportive of one high school moving without the other. And I think we should hold that until both can be effectively executed.
Mr. Biermeyer, you want to comment on that?
No, and I think Mr. Clevin is right. When we talk about the equity, that's one thing that we keep in mind every single day. And Mr. Clevin, I would agree with you. When we put these together, we're gonna put them together. It could be Cushman goes first, and the other ones are going to be held back with not fully funded. But we're going to hold them until both get to go forward. Very much agree with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Flynn?
I have a couple questions. Did we just put this out to bid for ourselves, or did we use like a third-party vendor, like a Sourcewell or something, to find bidders for us?
Both, but I'd like a little help on this.
Yeah, no, members of the board, we certainly discussed those options, cooperative purchasing buying, but there's no way there's only one way to understand this situation. We put it out to bid ourselves. So we're not leveraging any cooperative purchasing in this.
Okay.
Yeah, so I take my both back, meaning
Okay.
we did it.
Okay. My second question is, each of these are individually costed, but was there anything in the RFP that said, could you provide a discount for doing them all together? Or if there wasn't, is that something we can negotiate if we approve all 3? Can we go back to them? I don't know how the RFP works, but I would hope that if we chose someone that they'd be willing to negotiate on prices given the total cost.
If I may, so there's important procurement process involved with this question. There's just thresholds involved. So the process we've taken here was advised by me because I saw each of these projects being broken up. There's an equity question for sure, but the fact is that we can conceptually do just one of these projects and the others do not rely on it. So deliberately, we said, do not try to price this as a bundle because That's a slightly different process. So if you exceed $50,000, you follow a bid process where you need to publish it once for 10 days before receiving bids in. If you exceed $250,000, and I think in this case you would, if you're packaging these projects together, then you're going to get into a public improvement type of requirement. It's going to require just a couple additional steps, including longer advertisement, as well as some engineer work, architect or design work up front. And so if that's the path we feel we're getting near, then we'd want to take a pause and go back and procure it according to those requirements. But right now, deliberately, because I think there might have been a vendor question about, well, can we package this together? And we said no, not with the way that we're bidding this right now.
So because of that, and because we received the bids back, we can't go back to them and say, if we pick them, all, like if we pick Daktronics for all of them, we can't go back to say, congratulations, we picked you for these 3, can we get a discount?
Yeah, and fair question. So your choices tonight would be to accept one or the other or reject all bids. And so if you wanted to kind of go that route, you'd have to reject all bids and then go through that full procurement process as if it was a public improvement.
Okay. Okay.
Any follow-up, Ms. Flynn?
Yep, I have a couple other questions. So, because we have not yet secured all of the donors, how long do these bids last for until they say, hey, our price has gone up?
In the bid or the language was 60 days, I believe. Is that correct, Mr. Bombach?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And how many more donors are we waiting on to complete?
We are past for sure past the 60% dollar threshold at this point. And I would also like to say that some of the donors, or the levels that I thought would be the most difficult are the ones that we have found donors for.
Okay.
So what's remaining, I think, is going to go fast. It's going to be a little bit easier.
So I just have a follow-up question about how that money is procured. So the total dollar figure is $560,547. So if we say yes tonight, we go back to Daktronics, are they going to accept payment after the installation? And then have we collected, or will we have collected prior to the installation that same amount? Or is that amount over a certain period of time?
So that amount is over a 5-year period. And one of the options that we have is Daktronics would be our, I guess what you would say would be our bank. And that amount is factored into my profit and loss spreadsheet that we worked out. So we will not collect all of the dollars in the first year.
Okay. Is there any, so let's say Amber Flynn decides to sponsor and I sign up for a 5-year contract. Is there a penalty if I do not fulfill my donation? So, then someone could say, well, that amount's not collected because they withdrew their donation after 2 years.
Well, it's a contractual obligation that we've put through our lawyers. So there would be, it's possible for someone to not fulfill it. I'd have to go back and look at our contract for any kind of penalty.
I personally would not feel comfortable making a decision in the affirmative today without knowing the answer to that question, one. And I also I could have missed it, but I didn't know that the amount was going to be given over a certain time frame. I would prefer that we do not pay any amount over the amount that we have come in. And if that means we have to have a financer type thing so that we're awash every year, I would certainly rather go that option. But I don't know if I'm comfortable. I absolutely agree with the project and that like, I think it would be great and we need it, and I think you've done tremendous work, but not knowing that like a donor could just withdraw funds after 2 years, and certainly that would be then a cost to us if we have to go and, it's a breach of contract, but I don't know what the terms are of the contract. And so I don't know if I feel comfortable approving the affirmative until I know what the dollar checks and balances are going to be.
Mr. Biermeyer, Mr. Baumbach, either of you?
Sure, I'd be happy to respond here. So I think this is, just the way I'm thinking, of course. So for one, I think to be clear, if you choose this bidder, it's still completely contingent on execution of the project, raising the dollars and actually going forward. So every time a bid is approved, there's still some of this contract negotiation. And I think when it comes to the donor dollars, I don't know exactly the contract mechanism we'll use, but to Mr. Biermeyer's point, we're going to absolutely need certainty before we move forward with the project. That's been the thing that's underlined twice, is there won't be any general fund dollars involved with these projects. So the sentiments I agree to, and if there's a requirement to see that contract up front, and we didn't see that coming, we can work to accommodate that request.
Mr. Biermeyer, anything to add to what Mr. Baumbach said? Ms. Flynn, do you have a follow-up? Yeah, I would look to the language of the recommendation speaking directly to securing external project funding, and in my mind, securing means exactly that, is a guarantee, a certainty. And yes, of course, anything can happen, but to a legal standard of securing funding is I believe the recommendation put before us tonight. Dr. Hodak?
Mike, when you said 60%, is that 60% of Cushman and then 60% of Red River and 60% of Central? Because I'm coming from, I really hope we don't put this community into Red River got it, but Central didn't. I would prefer that we get it all up front and that it's one lump. You are not just contributing to Red River, you are contributing to all three areas where we need these. I do agree with, I think you've done a good job. I do agree with Daktronics. I think every one of those pieces of the puzzle, it's the funding for the community to understand it, and I would be much more for it's all stated up front, and also a clause, if nothing else. If you do not pay your amount of money, we might take you to small claims court. I don't know, but that's what I would prefer.
Mr. Biermeyer, you want to speak to that?
And to answer your question on the 60% plus, it is for all three projects. So we are on par with exactly what our intention was of getting all three of these together.
I do have to assume that you may have a community member, a small business who has a connection to a school who would, is more apt to sponsor in one gymnasium versus another. And on balance, as long as there are enough of those A but not B, and then B but not A, the projects get funded. But I'm not asking you to speak out of turn or tell stories out of school. But just generally speaking, to characterize, I have to believe that at a practical level, having the ability to say, if you are a fourth generation from this school and you want to know that you're supporting this, that you're at least open to that. Is that a fair way to characterize that?
It is, and in some of the conversations we've had, I thought we may have had a few more of those. And for some of those that are the fourth generation at high school A, said, I do want to be on both. This is an advertisement for my business, and I'm not going to withhold that just because we're from this high school. So more and more of that has come through my conversations and going, exactly, that's what we think of advertising. So this community has done a great job with those four generations understanding this is for Grand Forks.
Thank you. I saw a couple over here. Mr. Clevin?
Thank you again. There was a statement earlier about donations are over a 5-year period. does that mean that if we proceed with these, we still have to take a loan or some kind of carrying cost to go from year 1 when the donations start to year 5 when they're complete? Or will we have all the money up front before we turn a nut or sign a contract?
Mr. Biermeyer?
They are 5-year contracts. We will not have all of that money up front, but there are some businesses that they do not want to write a check 5 times every year. So there are some businesses that are saying, I'll put all my money up front right now for 5 years. So I think there could still be a slight gap in there that I'm going to need to get into year 2, even maybe year 2.5 before it's completely paid off. And the funding source will not be the school district. The funding or the bank would be Daktronics, and they have a program for that.
And did I hear you say, Mr. Biermeyer, that's baked into these numbers?
Correct.
Yeah. Mr. Clevin?
Yeah, I'm going to apologize because I'm just worried. Let's say this Daktronics bank does its business and something happens. Is the school district not the final signer of the contract and we're responsible financially if things go insolvent? And I'm back to what we heard earlier about we're not using taxpayer money. I just can't see how we can avoid that if we don't have all the money up front.
Mr. Biermeyer, Mr. Baumbach? We'll go to these two first and then to you, Dr. Hodak.
Well, I understand your concern, and I really do appreciate that. And I look at what might be considered the usual and customary when other schools, even universities, have done projects like this. I hate to say that this is how it's done. I think we want to reduce that number of years until we get all of it paid off. We want to reduce it as much as possible. But Mr. Clevin, I don't know what other, I'm trying to come up with the right words to ease your mind, and I understand where you're coming from.
Well, just to interject as you're looking for a response, if we can show cash flow wise that any given year the donor dollars cover our cash flow, that will help address the question. But I still think it comes back to if something goes wrong, and these are all fine people with fine intentions, but sometimes things go wrong. How are we not on the financial liability side of these projects? I can't see where we could avoid that. So someone's got to prove that. So cash flow and proof that ultimately the school district's not on the hook financially if something goes wrong.
Mr. Baumbach, and then back to Mr. Biermeyer.
I think that's a fair observation, and then it's fair to say the liability would be on the school district, and there would be a financing component to this, unless, of course, Mr. Biermeyer is able to raise all those dollars up front.
Mr. Biermeyer, anything else to add? And then I'll go to Dr. Hodak.
I agree with Mr. Baumbach.
Dr. Hodak?
So I would say if Daktronics is going to be our banker, that we need to really, and I'm just going to assume that you two have done this, but to protect us, we need to make sure that we understand their terms. Is there interest on the dollars that aren't paid for? And the other question around this is 5 years we're out and keep paying and such. What are the warranties on all of this? Have we taken a look at that?
Yes.
And what happens if, because the district still has to be taking the risk and is picking that up as well. So that's all I'm asking.
Mr. Biermeyer?
Yeah, and the warranties on these are, without it right in front of me, I want to say they're at the 10-year mark, and that's, I want to say parts and labor. I don't have the contract in front of me, but that's what's in my head, is we need to be prepared for that 10-year mark. Now, they also have boards that, even some of our boards are out there a lot longer than that. So if we can get through that warranty, we will be fine. The interest rate that Daktronics is one option. We have other banks that are interested in this project that we're talking about better interest rates. But again, all that will be in that pro forma.
Thank you. Dr. Brenner?
Mike, and some of the other school districts that you've talked to who have worked with Daktronics and maybe are doing the sponsorship over 5 years, any good experiences that you could share with the board, about how they got into the financing piece and it didn't become born on the school district? I'm not sure. We haven't talked about that.
The boards that are out there that are the most recent boards have the same funding mechanism as we do, or that we would like to do. And they're in year 3, some are year 5, some are in year 2, and they're not experiencing any of those hiccups. They're saying, yep, we have a 5-year commitment from business A, and we're in year 4 right now, and they continue to pay their bill. And it hasn't been a problem at this point. I can say that. In the 40 or so that I know about in Northwest Minnesota and North Dakota.
Thank you. Ms. Flynn? And then we'll go to Mr. Palmasino.
I just have 2 things. I'm not necessarily concerned about financing through Daktronics, being a big company, them going under, anything like that. I am more concerned about not having the information that I feel would be necessary to move forward with seeing what the donor expectations are over that period before we approve something with over $500,000 price tag. I trust you completely, what you're saying. I think you will do great due diligence, but I think it is the responsibility and due diligence of this board to be able to see what the requirements are of the donors. We are in a changing economy right now, and at any one moment, if someone decides to pull their funding, it would be, I think, then we would go back and we'd be a story in the newspaper that says, Grand Forks Public Schools said we aren't paying tax dollars with this, and now look what happened. We approved 2 video boards outside each of the high schools with reference to getting donations, and those are not filled. This is a different process. I will recognize that, and I know we've talked about that, and that part of that will be advertisements on those boards, but that's already been one situation where that has not been filled for a couple of years, and I don't feel like I have the information to move forward in this instance. If we have the contract for 60 days and you are still, or the bid amount, and you're still doing the work, I personally don't think that it would hurt the project to postpone a decision until the next board meeting to get a few more pieces of information. So I'm not saying no. I think this is a great idea. I think it would help support our community in a variety of ways, especially if we have a cost-neutral plan. But I just feel like I'm 80% there, and I need the extra 20%.
Thank you. Mr. Palmasino?
Yeah, I would, first of all, I've worked with Daktronics for many years. Every scoreboard at Apollo Complex was done this way. There were people that, after a few years, backed out, but it was always very easy to fill those spots with additional people that would want to sponsor. I would project to you that when you're done with this project and people start seeing whose names are up on the board, that you're going to have more people come forward asking to get on that board, because these are going to be in both high schools and out at Cushman. So I'm not concerned over losing 1 or 2 sponsors during the process, because there are other sponsors out there that can come in and jump on. And just a quick note is Choice Health and Fitness was less than 1% of the donors on a $15 million project that backed out on their pledges. So I think when a pledge is made to a school district and it's up where the public sees it, I don't see that being a problem with a pledger backing out on it.
Other comments from board members? Dr. Lund?
I don't have a problem waiting a couple weeks and trying to get some more information for Amber. I don't think that'll screw the process up too bad. I have a tendency to agree with Bill. I've been on a lot of fundraising for lots of different things, and we've got our CIA executive director back there who can talk about the percent of donors that haven't paid up. We have to admit, it's probably not going to be 100%. Somebody may drop off, or a business may go defunct, or something like that. And I'm assuming you're not going to cut the donor list so close that if we lose one donor, we're shafted. You're going to have extra. So I don't have the same kind of concerns. On the other hand, I don't have a problem waiting a couple of weeks. I'll be surprised if your agreement says that there's some big clawback thing, though. It's probably not. If a donor backs out, there's probably not going to be a lot of financial repercussions for that donor. And I think to try and go back now and ask people that, well, we don't need a 5-year commitment, we need a 30-day commitment, we may as well just start over. It's not going to work at that point. So.
Yeah, I suppose to your point, Dr. Lund, this idea of a 5-year commitment also comes with a marketing opportunity, an advertising opportunity, and so the quote-unquote penalty is the company's no longer on the board, rather than, no, you promised, et cetera, et cetera. Generally speaking, I agree with both Mr. Palmasino and Dr. Lund that there are others to fill those spaces, but we'll see how the board wishes to act on this recommended motion. Other thoughts from board members? Dr. Hodak?
I would prefer that we would wait and get as much information that we've talked about tonight that we would like to have before making a final decision. As I said, I completely support everything that you've shown us and done. There's just a couple pieces of information further for us to need. Thank you.
Others? Dr. Lund?
I don't think we've asked those two gentlemen, what does a 2-week delay do in this process?
Sure. Mr. Biermeyer, do you want to speak to that first?
A 2-week delay wouldn't set us back a lot. I think we do want to have everything signed, sealed, and done by June 1 so that we can get this project going and be ready for August, both indoor and outdoor. So I think we're still okay to come back in 2 weeks.
Mr. Bombach, anything to add to Dr. Lund's question? Okay, thank you. Others? Mr. Larson?
Just to belabor this a little bit, sponsorship agreements are like any other contract. So there's always risk of someone not following through on a contract, and you have to deal with it, and there's expense to it, and there's liability. I think this is a pretty low-risk situation, and that if we get the right donors to commit to the right dollar amounts, if you have hey, Joel is individually saying $25,000 per year for 5 years, don't trust it. But if you're saying any of our big area businesses, I won't name one individually, who says the same thing for 50K times 5 years, and it's the right donor, I think we can trust our administration to do that. 2 weeks I don't think is going to kill us, but these are legally binding contracts. Every entity that I think that we work with, including the one I am employed by, has lots of them. So I think it's a low-risk environment, but it's okay waiting as well.
That brought up a great point that I'd like to make, that these larger donors that we have reached out to and spoken to, Mr. Larson, I agree with you, they have said, I need to go back to my board. So it isn't just one person speaking on behalf of that. It is, and that's taken us some time because those boards don't often, meet that often. So I appreciate sparking my memory about that too, that it is the business, and the business has a board that's agreeing to these.
Other questions, comments from board members? Ms. Flynn?
I would also say that if we delay this and bring it back to our next board meeting, I would like to have a more definitive answer on how we are going to end up paying for it, if we're doing a bulk up front or if we're doing the financing option, and what that cost would be. Because if we do not have $560,000 on the date of installation, I personally would not be in favor of paying the bill. And if you've baked in the cost of whatever the financing option is, I would like a definitive, we are doing this option and here's what the cost would be year one if we decide to approve our recommended donor or vendor.
Do you want to speak to that, Mr. Biermeyer?
No, I think we have to put some hypotheticals together with that, because you want to go to the bank, and whichever bank that is, or if it's Daktronics, and they're going to have to make some assumptions on that, well, what is the remaining balance? That also will help determine the percent. So I'll come back with something, and it's going to be the best case that I can actually portray as far as what would be the truth.
Thank you. Mr. Clevin?
Sorry, thanks again for the floor. You probably have an idea of your year one pledges?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're all 5-year.
No, I know, but year one, there's X number of dollars.
Yeah.
That's pledged for year one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll know your initial payment in your amortization.
Yep. Yeah.
That's all I wanted to make
okay.
sure.
Other thoughts, questions from board members? Well, this is an item for action this evening, so we will need a motion on the floor. We've heard quite a bit of robust conversation, but I would entertain a motion from a board member who wishes to at least take us in a direction of how to proceed. I don't want to prescribe that, but Ms. Flynn, do you want to give it a shot?
I would motion that we postpone the consideration of proposals for scoreboards at Grand Forks Central High School gymnasium, and then obviously would take the next ones. That we postpone it to the next board meeting.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to postpone consideration of proposals for scoreboards at Grand Forks Central High School gymnasium. Am I to understand until our next meeting, or is that language not necessary?
Yep.
Okay. So that's the motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Hodek. So we have a motion to postpone this consideration of 6C. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Clevin.
I just wonder, for the sake of some expediency, if the motion can also cover Red River High School and Cushman, because I suspect reading the information we'll hear on the next two is like identical. So if we can make a motion, the amendment to include all three?
I appreciate the question. I'm going to turn to Mr. Bombach because this might have something to do with the bid processes being separate rather than combined. So do you have any particular opinion about that, Mr. Bombach?
That'd be my commentary as well. It might be the agenda integrity, but I would really like to see these projects separate, and if there's a different direction, then we should really follow a different bidding process.
I do appreciate the note, Mr. Clevin, but we'll keep this. There is a current motion on the floor with a second. So it's a motion by Ms. Flynn and a second by Dr. Hodek. Any further discussion on postponing 6C? Take a roll call vote.
Flynn?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Palmasino?
No.
Larson?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 no, 0 absent.
Motion to postpone passes. Now we're on to 6D, consideration of proposals for scoreboards at Red River High School Gymnasium. Is there a motion from a board member regarding 6D? Ms. Flynn?
I'll make the motion to postpone consideration of proposals for scoreboards at Red River High School Gymnasium till our next board meeting.
Okay. So you heard the motion on the floor to postpone 6D until our next board meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Clevin, any further discussion? Dr. Lund?
Are we postponing the discussion about these as well then? I'm just wondering with Mr. Byer, we're not going to talk about these, we're just going to postpone the whole thing?
Let me make sure I understand your question, Dr. Lund. Are you saying that?
Is he going to talk about the proposals for Red River and Cushman, or are we going to postpone those discussions till the next meeting as well?
So that's a great question. I would ask, so we have a motion on the floor to postpone 6D and a second. So is there a board member who seeks additional question or clarity from Mr. Biermeyer before voting on this action to postpone? Is anything else requested? Any other information, Mr. Clevin?
Thank you. Is there anything substantively different in this project relative to the first project we heard? Other than, cost and, we know that's different, but other than that, method of bidding, method of evaluation, method of discussion of finance and costs, Is there anything substantively different?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else that board members would wish to have clarified before voting on the motion to postpone 6D? We'll take a roll call vote.
Palmesino?
No.
Lund?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Flynn? Anderson?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Klevin?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
HS, 1 no, 0 absent.
Motion to postpone passes. We're now on to 6E, consideration of proposals for scoreboards at Cushman Field. Is there anything you wish to present relative specifically to 6E that might help this conversation and recommendation for action, Mr. Biermeyer?
Nothing that would be substantively different.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Klevin?
I'm sorry, I can't help myself. Are you replacing just the scoreboard and leaving the structure in place, or are you taking structure down to footings and then putting up new?
In the Cushman project, the structure, the footings remain the same. We're using the existing infrastructure. Therefore, the cost is much more friendly.
How about time of game clocks, all that sort of associated football equipment?
Those would be replaced, and the sound system would be replaced.
All right, we are on 6E, consideration of proposal for scoreboards at Cushman Field. I feel comfortable enough saying I'm seeking a motion to postpone 6E, to postpone consideration of proposals for scoreboard at Cushman Field. Do I have that motion?
Until what time?
Until the next meeting, which would be on May 26th. It's been moved by Ms. Flynn to postpone 6E, consideration of proposals for scoreboard at Cushman Field, until our next regular meeting of the school board. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Klevin. Any further discussion, clarification from board members? We'll take a roll call vote.
Anderson?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Klevin?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Palmesino? Larson?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
HS, 1 no, 0 absent.
Motion to postpone 6E passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Biermeyer.
Thank you.
We're now on to 6F, consideration of memorandum of understanding between East Grand Forks Public Schools and Grand Forks Public Schools for participation in Career Impact Academy. Mr. Bombach, do you want to kick this off?
Sure, I'll just be introducing the talented Mr. Ripley. I think we'll go with that again. Just for the Career Impact Academy, I think he's going to have a lot to say. What I'd like you to know from my perspective is that this agreement has been read through by our attorney, and so this is coming directly from her. Please.
I caught the talented Mr. Ripley this time. Last time I missed it, so thank you, Mr. Baumbach, President Berger, members of the board. Happy to be here tonight, and I also appreciate Chad Grassel from East Grand Forks Public Schools, the WAVE Academy coordinator, who's been here, I think, the duration of the meeting. And so, but obviously showing his support and excitement for really a collaborative project that has spanned multiple conversations and meetings between representatives of our school district, including Dr. Brenner, Brandon, myself, and representatives from East Grand Forks Public Schools, including their superintendent, Kevin Grover, Chad, just on the conversation of what it would look like for East Grand Forks students to enroll in the Career Impact Academy next school year. And so what is before you tonight, and happy to answer questions, is that memorandum of understanding as it relates to enrollment, fee structure, responsibilities of both parties involved. And again, it would be our administrative recommendation to move forward with that agreement. And we're excited about this partnership.
Thank you. Any questions from board members for Mr. Ripley? Ms. Flynn?
I may have missed it in here, but do you have an idea of how many students we would be potentially seeing?
What a great teed-up
We might
question
as
for Mr.
well
Grassel.
make use of his time sitting in
Absolutely.
the audience.
Chad, come on down. I feel like the price is right here. There is a difference between initial student interest and I think what actually fits in their schedules with the certain courses, but I'll let Chad reference maybe what that interest looks like and perhaps some of the areas. So, Chad.
Yep. So we agreed on 5 areas. So we put a limit on 50 as of right now, 50 students up to. We currently have 20 to 25 that are looking, mostly in the CNA program, the construction trades program, and automotives and culinary. Those are our kids are very excited. When we were able to tell our sophomores and juniors, we had some upset seniors, but it's been a great process working with Eric and his crew and the administration to get this going, and we're excited to have that opportunity. So, thank you.
Other questions from board members? Dr. Lon?
Just a quick one, and it may be in here, but I don't speak legalese like Mr. Larson does. I don't know, do you have students from other school districts, Warren, Alvarado, or other, that enroll in classes in East Grand Forks School District? And if so, would they be eligible to be able to participate in this as well?
So they'd have to be open enrolled in East Grand Forks to be our student, and then they would enroll through us. Yep.
Okay, so if they're taking one, they're enrolled in their school district, but taking one class from you, that they would not be eligible to do this?
Yep, and we don't have those, they have to open enroll fully, not just one class.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Others? Ms. Flynn?
Is there any considerations, for example, like the CNA program for certification, or the instructor maybe teaching a certification process in North Dakota versus Minnesota, if they're different, or?
Sure. So I just actually had that conversation with our CNA instructor, which is incidentally our teacher of the year for our school district, so a pretty good one to put up for discussion purposes. But we will deliver the class and have the students test in the North Dakota standard. That would be our recommendation, because the class is based around the North Dakota Certified Nurse Aide training requirements. And then if students test and certify North Dakota, there's reciprocity within Minnesota for that. Now, students can also opt to take the exam in Minnesota, but then they do run the risk of potential skills that they may not have been specifically trained on in the class that they'd have to study for themselves. So that would be what her response was when I asked that question.
I have a related question. It's really just out of curiosity. These will be the first students from across the river, so to speak.
Correct.
From a Minnesota school. Was there anything in this process that did or didn't make the memorandum of understanding, anything that was a stickier wicket because we have perhaps different state standard or graduation, they're coming back across the river using that credit? Yes, it's an elective, et cetera, but could you just walk us through whether any of that came to be? I'm not saying it's going to get in the way of this MOU, but anything that came up?
No, I appreciate the question, President Berger. I think ultimately it comes down to, we know that there's student interest. We know that there's workforce demands that don't just magically stop at the river. And so from our regional employers, they certainly appreciate that because we're trying to keep talent within the region. And the region is comprised of both eastern North Dakota, western Minnesota. So ultimately then it comes down to the adults in the room that help and want to make this work. And again, I give credit to Superintendent Grover, our superintendent, Dr. Brenner, Mr. Baumbach, our business manager, Chad, myself, just again, putting forth the collective efforts to say, what does agreement like this look like? Where is it a win-win? And again, it's staff and programs we already have with the opportunity to have open spots to then bring in students that have that interest from East Grand Forks. So we're excited about that collaboration.
Thank you. Other questions? Dr. Hodak?
I'm assuming that this was done, but under Section 8, academic credit records and reporting, there is discussion about the award of credit. Did you have the discussion if there's any differences between grading policy, such as a 90% is an A in Minnesota, a 96 is an A here, and the other part would be, how are you going to make sure that students and parents understand that it would be, as I'm seeing, all Grand Forks grading and reporting and such?
I appreciate the question, Dr. Hodak. It's the same process that we have with all of our member schools on North Dakota side as well. We follow the Grand Forks Public Schools calendar. We provide that percentage that is earned and the grade that's earned back to the school, and then they place it on the students' transcripts. And so I think the gist of is the understanding of the schools in terms of which schedule do you follow, which calendar do you follow, which attendance policy do you follow, which grades do you follow. I think that's part of a regional center concept. Otherwise, you can imagine with 7 different school districts in there trying to do 7 different grading policies. I don't think that would work. So we'll follow the Grand Forks Public Schools and report the grades back.
Other questions from board members? Ms. Flynn?
This is just a comment, but when I traveled with Mr. Ripley to some of the other CTE centers, he was very forward-thinking in the thought that maybe we could work with East Grand Forks counterparts in providing opportunities for their students. And, the school district could have chosen somewhere like land behind Furniture Row in the south end of town, which likely wouldn't have made something like this possible. And so sometimes we look back at our building projects and say, you know what, we probably would have done that differently. I think this is one that on all aspects of how we could grade it, the forward-thinking mindset about who would be involved and really opening it to everyone about the region, the amount of collaboration with the city donating the land. I think this is a pure example of doing things the right way, both living in the present and future thinking. So I just want to give props to you that very early on I heard you talk about a potential partnership, and the school district has supported that, and the city and EDC has supported that as well, and the donors as well. So kudos to you and everything that you guys have worked together to collaborate on for future students. So.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Others? Dr. Brenner, do you have something?
I too want to thank Chad for being here tonight and sitting through a long meeting, getting to the microphone. But one of the other one of the other topics that we talked about, because we don't have welding, is there may be an opportunity effective the 27-28 school year where our students could go to East Grand Forks and take welding because they offer it. More logistics to work out, but we have found that the muddy Red River isn't so muddy when we're trying to cross state lines. So thanks for that option as well. So we'll work on that.
Other final thoughts, questions? Anything else that we haven't covered that you wish to share? Either just give you an opportunity before we get into the business end of things.
We're good.
Okay. I would seek a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between East Grand Forks Public Schools and Grand Forks Public Schools. Been moved by Mr. Clevin. Is there a second? Second. A second by Mr. Larson. Is there any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Clevin. Yes. Larson. Yes. Palmasino. Yes. Lund. Yes. Manley.
Yes.
Flynn. Yes. Hodak.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Berger.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. Thank you both for being here. Move on to 7. These are the other items on our agenda. 7A, announcements. Are there any announcements? Yes, Mr. Anderson?
I just wanted to say that I got the opportunity to enjoy the National Technical Honor Society induction ceremony last Wednesday evening at Grand Forks Central, and along with that goes the recognition of their very important teachers, which is always a very enjoyable experience. I mean, a lot of words you can use for it, but reminder, this Wednesday is Red Rivers. This Wednesday evening, I believe it's 6 p.m. at Red River High School. So just wanted to make all aware.
Thank you. Other announcements? (7B) board requests for future consideration. Any requests from board members? Dr. Lund?
I don't ask very often, so I actually have 2 tonight. So, one is an update about roundabouts. I love roundabouts. I think they're really great, but I've observed pedestrians trying to go across and around roundabouts, and it can be a challenge. And I just, with the proposal of having a roundabout in the front yard of one of our elementary schools, I just want to make sure that I have full faith in engineers and in engineers in the city, and I'm assuming they're doing it all right, but we haven't heard a lot about that, and I don't know that we necessarily need a seat at the table, but I think we have a vested interest in the safety of our children. So I just want to make sure that after it's all done in the end, we don't think, oh, geez, this didn't work very good. Because I've watched people struggle pedestrian-wise to go across roundabouts, and it's sometimes can be a challenge. So that's one of them. And the other I think we should have a conversation about is school board processes. And what I'm thinking about is work-life balance for our administrators. And I know I've talked to administrators about this before, but we have a lot of school board meetings there at 5 o'clock or later. And I've often wondered, do we need all these administrators at all these various committees and things like that? I just think we need to have some ongoing conversations as a board and as an administration about, is there some way we can streamline some of these processes so that it's a work-life balance for us, but more importantly for our administrators. So those are my two.
Thank you. Other board requests for future consideration? Ms. Flynn?
We heard a wonderful presentation from a school today, and I was surprised to hear that they don't have a busing route. I didn't know that Wilder didn't. I think even 5 students who miss school because they don't have access to getting to school is more than enough students. And so I would like to see or hear a presentation on the work that we do with Valley Busing in terms of creating routes for all students. I certainly know there's going to be some workarounds with having to price routes as well. But I know there's some survey that goes into it and things like that too. But I would love for us to see what it would look like to at least offer a route for every school, AM and PM, and how do we get there? So,
Thank you. Other board requests for future consideration? (7C) School Board Meeting Norms. Mr. Manley, how did we do?
To answer that question, I had my Manly AI listening to the meeting, and being the power-hungry beast that it is, completely depleted the batteries on my data center here. So I'm looking at a black screen now. So I will say we did just fine.
If I could ever back up to 7B and have the board request for future consideration be to hear that report at our next meeting, if that would at all be possible. But with that, we're adjourned.